welcome to episode 191 of Zapped to the Past. I am Adrian Mills. I'm joined as always by Mr. Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. Last week, we looked at our first batch of games from issue 77 of Zap 64, which we are in no way affiliated with, and were caught playing with too many balls in the ball game, ran for no real good reason in Rubicon, and opined the lack of actual outrun in Outrun Europa. This week we conclude our look at the games in September 1991, along with what was also lighting up our TV and cinema screens that month. Graham, are we sad to see September go, or do we say good riddance to its pox-ridden mangy existence?
The game releases are definitely getting thinner on the ground now, and as a result, we've torn through September 1991 like a storm with gusts of up to 80 miles an hour, and that's gusty. And so in the final part of a month in which Otzi the Iceman, a 5,000-year-old mummy, is discovered by German tourists in the Italian Alps, we grab our ladders and head for a good old-fashioned arcade one-screen climb-around in the grab-em and bash-em fun-filled platforms of Rodland. And once again, we head to the tables, fixtures, player stats, and crappy visuals of another football game in text format in the deja vu-laden Striker Manager. I wonder how on earth they discovered an Iceman and what possessed them to dig it up. If a life of science fiction and horror movies has taught me anything, digging ancient things up and defrosting them usually ends in trouble. So while we wonder what a 5,000-year-old mummy would smell like, and I'll wager it wasn't nice, we buzz off on a mission to spin tiles, connect paths, and avoid stuff in another single-screen arcade-styled quest for fun with Insector Hecti in the interchange, before we finally grab our best cues, carefully align our balls, and then take to our favourite angular dimension for a game of American 3D Pool. It's hard to believe we're through 9 months of 1991 and hardly a handful of decent titles released too. I mean, we knew it was going to happen, I suppose, but at least hiding in there is the odd little arcade gem. Nice. Well, I don't think we're going to be waving it goodbye in that kind of sad so long farewell. I think we're kind of waving it goodbye in that kind of you overstayed your welcome, don't come back for a while kind of way.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad bunch of games this week.
No, they're not as bad as they have been. Granted, September is eking out a meagre existence, living off chips like a seagull at the end.
Absolutely. No, there's ones on Brighton Beach, though. They're vicious. Vicious as hell.
Yeah, they are. Well, seagulls are actually quite dangerous. Metal beaks, haven't they? So you've got to be very careful of that. Metal beaks.
Metal beaks.
The ones that have had their beaks replaced with metal, they are. Very metal.
In your experimental
in my seagull experimentation lab,
beak replacement lab.
The SEL, the seagull experimentation lab. You know, it turns out that's the only part of them that you can really replace with metal. Their eyes turned out very badly for everybody.
And they can't creep up on anyone when you do the feet.
No. So nothing ends well. The metal wings, they just, let's just say it didn't take off. But just for the record, I don't experiment on any kind of birds or ornithological type things. I don't do that. Nor
do we condone that kind of behaviour. For those amongst you who may think, finally, a podcast I can listen to.
Exactly.
They're going, not this one.
They're bird haters. I don't actually. I'm not a fan of pigeons particularly, but I'm scared of them. Just shit on everything, and I don't like that.
Yeah. I don't mind pigeons as long as they're not just a bit of decent callback when, just as long as they're not serenading me with Chris Rea.
No, but
they did for ages.
But I would fall, pardon the pun, foul, or should I say they would fall foul of me if any other animal was regularly defecating on my car. If it was a fox or a giraffe, I would probably take umbrage at that. Pigeons, it's not that I hate the race of pigeons, I just don't like defecation on my car unnecessarily, especially when I've just cleaned it. I know that they're watching. I nearly got it with my jet. One was swooping down for the attack, but he thought I wasn't there. Clearly, I was outside of the view. I happened to have the jet washer in my hand, and it got the full power of the dirt blaster. It didn't get it, really. It just sprayed mist in the air. It was like some giant octopus going, "Ah!" I was like, "Get away!" But I know they're going to come back. We've got an invasion, by the way, talking about birds, and just so you know, in our village, we've got an invasion of peacocks. Did you know that?
Cool.
It's not cool.
It sounds cool. Peacocks are pretty.
Yeah, 2 or 3 of them, but we've got 40 peacocks. Do you know how loud that is?
They're quite loud.
Yes, and do you know how big peacock poops are?
Are they quite big?
Massive, yeah, massive. Not decking friendly little get the hose pipe out and jet wash them. No. These things are properly letting go. Let me tell you. Wow. It looked like someone bloody...
Where have they come from?
From the land of peacocks. I don't bloody know. Just from Peacocksville, down the road at, Peacock Town.
Peacock.
What's attracted them here? I don't know what's attracted them here, but it looked like my decking had been whitewashed. Yeah, it's not friendly. There's a big bird poop problem around here, and they are beautiful birds, and you don't want to upset them. But apparently, because we had someone out, we've got like a little shed in the garden, obviously, and two of them were stood on the roof of that the other day, just stood proudly on there thinking, look at the mess we created. And you can't feed them because that encourages them to come back. And as much as everyone goes, oh, peacocks are lovely, they're really not. The dogs hated them. The dogs were freaking out. Everything went mad.
And they're protected as well. You can't do anything to them, can you?
Well, they've got shields. So you go near them and it's like,
aren't they like a protected species or something, aren't they?
Well, I don't know that I think they are. I think you go around murdering peacocks arbitrarily like swans, I think, but nor should you. But you can shoo them away, but you have to shoo them away with something bigger than a peacock. Well, peacocks are pretty big. So what do you do that with? Do you own anything bigger than a peacock just to shoo things away with? I don't.
No.
The biggest broom I had wasn't big enough.
This is going to turn into that "I Know an Old Woman" song very quickly. So you brought in the lions to get rid of the peacocks, and you had to get someone to get rid of the lions.
It was man versus peacock, and let me tell you, it's not an easy thing to shoo them away. They're pretty belligerent. Anyway, don't get me started on the old peacock war.
I'd watch that on More 4.
It'll be on. Don't worry, on Channel 5.
Peacock all afternoon on Sunday.
Attack.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. This Adventures of Mr. Peacock.
If you have enjoyed this Peacock talk, then you can support further Peacock talk by going to our Patreon.
Yes.
And signing up and supporting us financially. It's patreon.com/Zapped to the Past. We're over there. We have been for ages. Come and join in the chats on Discord. Get the episodes ad-free and early and that kind of thing. And get to ask us questions and join in on the Christmas stuff and the end of year things and all those kind of stuff that we do. It's all good.
Exactly. As they say at Tesco, every little helps, don't they? Or as they said later on down the line, we will try and control every aspect of your life.
Yeah, during the Great War with Denmark.
During the 5-hour war, yeah.
Indeed. Right, we've got 4 games this week, which is the final 4 games. We also have the charts. We also have, it's not a crap advert, it's a cover. It's a crap cover, but it needs to be talked about. I couldn't find an advert for it.
It's a crap cover. Cover crap.
It's cover crap, but it needs to be talked about. So we're going to talk about that as well, and Films TV. So, Graham, shall we get into our first game?
Let's do it.
And our first game, it's Rodland. Rodland, yeah, I want to help you, Rodland.
Why have you eaten all the biscuits, Rodland?
Oh, Rodland, what are you doing, Rodland? For those who used to watch Grain Chill, you know exactly what I'm on about. For those who didn't, very sorry.
Yes.
Rodland. It's a title I never get tired of saying. Rodland. Hey, Rodland. Yeah. This is Rodland, another in the very long line of arcade conversions we've had to look at. This was £11.99, don't you know? Pricey.
It's quite pricey, that.
It's a bit pricey, isn't it? Things are going up. Yeah. It did get 90%, though, and a sizzler in the magazine. So it must be worth all that extra, that money, all that extra dough.
All that money.
Originally released in the arcade in 1990 by Jaleco, where it was originally called Yosai Monogatari Rodland.
Catchy.
Indeed, which translates to Rodland, a Fairy Tale. It was then ported to most machines at the time, so Amstrad, Spectrum C64, Amiga ST, Game Boy, and the NES at the time. But this continues to be released to this day. It's had a release on something called the Symbian and Windows Mobile in 2007. I'm guessing Symbian is some kind of phone.
I thought this. I think it is. I hope it is, because the other Symbian I've heard of is a vibrator.
Well, Rodland.
Rodland, yeah, it makes sense when I think about it, yeah.
Yeah, then it was released on iPad and iPhone in 2011. It was then released on the Antstream streaming platform in 2019 before receiving a Switch and PS4 release in 2021 via Hamster. And finally, it had another release on the NES and Game Boy in 2024.
Still going strong. Strong.
Yeah, Rodland. Can't stop the rod.
Rodland can't stop.
Exactly. Going back to the C64 version, the publisher for this was Storm. The producer was the Sales Curve. We've seen them quite a few times now, right of late. Coding and sound effects were by Steve Snake. We've seen him before as well. Visuals by Robert Whittaker, and the music was Martin Walker. Steve Snake, Mr. Snake, he did Impact. We looked at that all the way back in May 1988 and called it a dreadfully dull and uninteresting and boring Breakout clone.
All right, Frito.
we did like it. He also worked on Narc as well, and that's kind of it. And then he did this. Robert Whitaker's also someone we've seen before. Note where the game's coming from him. Narc, Scout, Saint Dragon, Swiv.
Oh, that's Saint Dragon.
Yeah, and of course, Martin Walker. He needs no introduction, so I won't say anything. According to the instructions, what is Rodland about? The story so far. Tam and Rit live in a fairy village. Having led a happy life full of sticky cakes and endless parties, they find that something awful has happened overnight to their fellow inhabitants. They've turned nasty and captured their mom and locked her in the top of the Maboot's tower. Luckily for Tam and Rit, they've inherited the rods of Shisanamo from a village elder and some rainbow shoes from their pop, their dad. Armed with these, they can tackle the tower by whopping cuddly beings on the head with their rods and climbing ladders built with the help of their rainbow shoes. It's not easy, though, when your former friends have some rather mean surprises in store for you.
Oh.
Okay. Now, weirdly, on the back of the box, that's from the instructions inside. So they got the rod of Shisanamo from the village elder and the rainbow shoes from the dad, right? On the back of the box, it says Tam and Rit must put on the rainbow shoes given to them by the elder and armed with the rods of Shisanamo, a gift from their dad.
Okay, confused. So you will
someone's not spoken to somebody. It does actually say, and there's a cutscene at the start of the arcade version, which does line up with one of these. But anyway, they've got a magic rod and they've got some magic shoes.
They're not afraid to use it.
No, and they're off to see the wizard. Anyway, at its heart, it's a platform and ladders game that crosses the old Space Panic style screens with Bubble Bobble's cute stylings and a little bit of Dig Dug's main mechanic, I would say. I'll come to why that is. You may go, ooh, Dig Dug, but you'll get it, I think. The game loads with the opening cutscene. It's actually from the arcade. There's actually a couple of extra screens to this than they're actually in the arcade game, so I had to go in the arcade. So we see Mom being carried away by a monster. There's an extra image of her with the monster flying away. Then there's the picture of the tower, the Maboot Tower, and that in the arcade is where the sort of cutscenes kind of end. I think we may see something else later on, but in here we then get a shot of Mom in prison. That may happen elsewhere in the game in the arcade. I'm not sure, but here we get it all in one lump. It's quite nice. Before we get the loading screen, and this is the title screen. It's nice, good attention to detail here, and sets the scene for the game. When it loads, the title screen has the game's name across the top, big bold letters that color cycle, and that's exactly like the arcade version. The arcade version, the image that we see as the loading screen is the arcade front screen, and the sort of colors rotate across that. Obviously, they couldn't manage that on the 64, so they put the sort of color cycling logo in the sort of main front end sort of thing, but it works and it's nice. They get the credits and it fades out and there's a high score table, so it's a nice arcade front end. Black background though, good use of color on the fonts though and names and everything. It looks nice. It's a nice arcade front end. The music is a very twee little tune from Mr. Walker, not at all like his normal thumpy self, but it's a version of the in-game music from the arcade. It's not amazing, but it fits the game. Now, of course, it fits the game because it is actually from the game in the arcade. Yeah. Now, you can play this in single player as either Rit or Tam. If you've got, it doesn't matter which joystick if you've got joystick port 1 or 2, pressing fire on either starts the game. You play as either Rit or Tam. I don't know which is which, but you'll play as one of them. It doesn't really matter. They play the same. If you in game though, you press fire on both joysticks, you can play 2 players co-op. And a second player can join the game at any time by just pressing fire on the other joystick whilst the game is running. That's always nice to see. And they've managed to, that's from the arcade as well. So that's good. Having pressed fire, the game starts. I played this on both disc and cartridge. On disc, the game is a multi-load. It loads in 8 levels, though, and the boss at the end of them in each load. So, and that's, straight from the start. So it doesn't get in the way, really. That's not a bad loading system. You've got
good.
Plenty to go at before you hit the next load, and then plenty to go again. So it's not like every level. It's just, you get 8 in one. So that's quite nice. As noted, the game itself is presented in the style of the old classic Space Panic, really. You play Rit or Tam, and the screen is made up of a series of ladders and platforms for you to navigate. Enemies are patrolling the platforms and will move along them and up and down the ladders or walk off the end and sort of float down in order to try and catch you. The aim of each level is to simply kill all the enemies. And once done, you'll move on to the next screen that features more enemies and of different types. Indeed, there are actually 9 types of enemy in the game itself. These are the Spuds. These have a nasty habit of multiplying. There are the Sharks, and it says, don't be fooled by their tears, because they stop walking and cry out tears that can fall on your head. There are Wasps. These take off and fly around. See these, and it's time to buzz off, the instructions say. There's Nessies. They've always got the munchies. There's the Polymorphs, which sort of spit out these little sort of tongues. These contain a hidden surprise. There's the Bushes. It's like these little foxes, says they're just furry fakes. The bunnies, if they reach for the carrot, it's time to clear off. There's the starfish. They've got their own version of an Australian hobby. Indeed, they lob boomerangs at you. And then finally, it's the blue meanies. The name says it all. So 9 types of enemies throughout the game. As you progress through the levels, the enemy variety and mix-up gets more challenging. If you lose all your 3 lives to contact with them, then you are offered to continue, which is good. But you lose all your score. So if you're high score chasing, then obviously you want to get as far as you can without the continue, because you're going to lose it all. So to combat these enemies, your controls are pretty simple. Left and right to walk, up and down to climb up and down the ladders. Pressing fire will use your wand in the direction you're facing. And this is where the Dig Dug reference comes in. So basically, when enemies get close to you, you press fire, you use your wand to grab the enemies. And that, if you hit them, it kind of sort of just grabs hold of them. They get a little sort of effect around them and you grab hold of them. And they become like ensnared in it. If you press fire again, it whips the enemy over your head, slams them into the ground behind you. Then press it again, it whips them back the other side. Then do it 3 times, back and forth. It kills the enemy. Like the 3 pump attack in Dig Dug.
Very similar
sort of thing. So it's that kind of, arcade logic. It's like 1, 2, 3, dead. You can also use this offensively as well, because slamming an enemy down onto another enemy who is close to you, that will stun them, allowing you to kill the present one and hopefully either get away or pick up the next, the new one as well. You can also, if you've grabbed an enemy, you can just walk away. So if you just move the joystick left or right, you walk away from them. And basically, they'll do like a little dance of pain, like before setting off on patrol again. And that's how this game works. Your second move is by pressing up or down. If you can't do down if you're on the bottom layer of platforms, and up if you're on the top. Actually, you can do up on the top ones. If you press up or down and press fire, this creates a ladder going upwards or downwards. The ladder is the length between sort of one set of platforms. I think you can have a total of like 4 layers of platforms on the screen, and a ladder will connect from one layer to the next. So even if there's a big gap above that, it'll only go 1 layer up, not all the way up to the top. So you can you can create that. So this allows you to navigate around the platforms at will almost. You just go where you want. You just push ladders, create ladders, go up and climb up. And the enemies are also clever enough to use these ladders as well. So you got to be careful, which is actually quite a nice bit of programming, I think, because those ladders they're not fixed. You can create ladders pretty much anywhere, and the enemies will respond to the fact that they're there and climb up and climb down them after you. That's quite cool. The thing is, destroying the enemies is only like part of this game. So on each, to get to the next level, just destroy the enemies, okay? On each screen, though, there are loads of flowers on the platforms. If you collect all these, then the enemies turn red, and they run away from you for a period of time. They don't want to be clapped, because if you grab them and kill them here at this point, then you'll make them drop a letter. And this cycles through the letters EXTRA, spelling extra. Should you collect all these letters, and you get a nice little cutscene straight from the arcade of a fairy appearing, giving you an extra life, which is cool.
Nice.
So it's a bonus to collect the flowers, obviously get a bigger score, then collect all the letters, get extra lives, kind of risk-reward thing. You can just go for the enemies and try to push your way through, but if you want those extra lives to help you when the levels get trickier, you're going to have to sort of do some exploring. And some of those flowers are in awkward positions. I can tell you. So you've got to kind of utilize your the things that are on the screen well, and judicious use of placing your ladders and things. If you killing enemies, it also sees them drop weapons that you can walk into to use. And they're just instant use. So as soon as you walk into them, they fire off. So there's like a pack of 4 balls that are there. So if you walk into them, they bounce off diagonally around the screen. If they hit any enemies, they kill them. There's a big explosive bomb that just explodes where you are. There's a missile that fires off to the left and the right. And there's a bouncing bomb that bounces along the platform. Again, any of these hit an enemy, it kills them instantly, which is kind of handy, but not if you're going, obviously, after the extra. You've got, when you kill that last enemy as well, you just be careful. You've got like about 3-second gap to get anything it drops before you do a little dance and you move on to the next screen. So look, some levels also see you needing, there's these balloons. So there's balloons that float up from the bottom, and it sees you needing to ride on them to reach the platforms that are out of reach of the player. So essentially, just if a balloon's coming up towards you, you can just stand above it, and you'll just float on top of it. You can get off at the next. Like I said, some of the platforms are unreachable without the balloons. If you want to collect all the flowers, the enemies use the balloons as well, which is quite cool. And they float around and stuff, so they can come up and after you. And some of the enemies fly around and things like that. So you're not safe on some of those levels. So you have to watch out for them. After levels 8, 16, and 24, you get a boss to beat. So the first boss you come across is a series. It's like a group of large crocodiles. There's 3 on either side of the screen. It's like you've got 4 layers of platforms. and your bottom layer doesn't have one at first. On the second layer, third level, fourth layer, there's a big crocodile, sort of half a crocodile on either side. And you've got to whack them with your staff repeatedly. Now, the thing is as well, because they're not at the bottom, they move up and down. So sometimes they'll move up. If you kill the top one, they can move up and down. And so they're always moving up and down after a little sort of a little pause. Yes, like I said, there's 6 of them, and they spit out little mini crocodiles as well that'll run towards you on the platform you're on. So you have to get out of the way of them or hit them with your staff. It's quite tricky, and they take quite a few hits, especially as they're shifting position all the time. The second boss is a massive blue whale that rises up from the bottom of the screen. It shoots enemies out of its blowhole at you. You've got to whack it in the eye, which is at your level when it's fully on screen. You've got to do that loads of times, and you also, like I said, deal with the enemies that are sort of spewing out of its blowhole and running around. So that's quite tricky as well.
Challenging.
Yeah, it is. Third one is an elephant. That's like on a sort of a swing, I think. It's like on some ropes on a swing above you, and it tries to sort of move left and right and then slam down on you. This, again, raining enemies down as you're trying to frantically get out of the way. And then while it's slammed onto the floor, you've got to run up to it and whack it with your rod quite a lot of times until it dies. And finally, at the end, you've got a 3-stage boss to fight, and it's the final night. This is the person who stole your mom. You have to fight them, like I said, 3 times, and they sort of get bigger in size. The first is like this small guy in armor, and he just bounces around trying to land on you. And as he's bouncing around, he'll jump in a certain speed. So you can kind of get in the middle of him and go back and forth, and you kind of try and hit him with your rod as he's trying to do that. If you destroy him, he becomes slightly larger. He floats around trying to land on you. He kept slamming down. You've got to get out of his way and then hit him when he's slammed down to the floor. And finally, becomes his final version, who teleports around the screen whilst also dropping enemies on you. There's loads of dropping enemies on you in these fights.
There is.
And if you manage to destroy this third phase, you win the game. You get some fireworks, and Mom thanks you for rescuing her. And then there's some very odd and slightly silly end game text and a nice tune. I think that's from the C64 version. It's good. And there's a lot to like here. I mean, I played the arcade version, and this is, very, very close to a perfect conversion, almost. It plays really well. It's fast. It's responsive. There are no issues I had climbing up and down the ladders. There didn't have any sort of pixel problems getting onto ladders or anything. You can I've had it really smooth, really easy to sort of navigate the levels and the platforms and the ladders, and creating them and moving around, falling off them. And when you fall, you control where you move, so you can climb. If you hit a ladder midway through it, you can climb straight back up it, from halfway point. It's really good in that respect. It worked really well. And my wand was I didn't really have any collision detection problems. If I hit the wand and it was an enemy, it hit them, flinging them around all over the place. I just had no problems at all when playing this. All the power-ups works as intended. The fairy cutscene is there, like I said, from the arcade. And as far as I can see, all the main levels of the arcade and bosses are present and correct. It's all there. I mean, fair play. There's no slowdown. It plays excellently. The visuals on the sprites, I love them. I thought these sprites are great. There's some really brilliant sprite work in this game. They're small. They're only sprite high, but each of the enemies and Tam and Rit, they're really well drawn and animated, and bags of character in them. They look really cool when the sharks stop and spit the little tear out. Or I loved the starfish throwing the boomerangs. I thought they were really cute. It just looks great, and it's like you look at them and you go, there's something about that's C64 sprites done really well. I really loved them. It's a very nice looking game in that respect. The little platforms are good as well. The flowers are good. The bosses are big, smooth, no slowdown. They're great. There's no flickering, and they're excellent C64 versions of the arcade monsters. They're great, big, fast, and they're quite fun to take on. They're not dead hard. They're tricky, but they're doable. I don't think I could really fault how this plays in terms of how it feels to the arcade game. Whacking the enemies is great. Knowing when to cut and run if there's another one coming at you, or slam it back on an approaching head to get some time to finish this one off, is always enjoyable. And as they mix them up and you get different enemies, because you get different types of enemies on the screen. So they've kind of got, you're dealing with different move sets almost. Like the buzzy bees are sort of buzzing around, and then there's the shark spitting at you, or the starfish lobbing stuff. And you kind of got to work out. And after a little while, they start going faster. So it gets trickier and things like that. It's just, arcade logic, but it works. I thought the difficulty level here feels well pitched. It's got a nice intro levels before it starts ramping up. I was quite far into it before I had to, on my first few goes, took me to get my head around it. But then I got quite far into it. I got past the first boss on my first, without a continue, doing quite well. So, yeah, I think this is a really well done arcade game. My only criticisms are a little bit in the presentation. The backgrounds are black. They're just black, which is a shame. Even the Amstrad version's got nice coloured backgrounds. And the backgrounds of the arcade are, like the inside of the tower or outside, things like that. It's a bit of a shame. I mean, we saw it in Bubble Bobble, but that was like the arcade. They were black there. But here it just makes the levels just feel a little bit drab. There's a lot going on at the front of them. And I wonder if it was like with the sprite colors and everything, they just couldn't get it. It just didn't look right or something. I don't know. I've no idea, but it's just black. Everything stands out and is readable because of that. But it just feels like, no, it's just black backgrounds. Because, it's super cute. It'd just be nice to have something in the background if it's bricks or anything, because you're in a tower. And the second weird omission is the lack of music in the game. The sound effects are fine, perfectly acceptable, and do the job nicely, but it needed that twee tune to fill in the gaps, because it's in the arcade and it just needs to be there. And it just brings that arcade atmosphere to the game. It's a weird omission. Maybe with it running so fast, and there's obviously some clever routines going on in there for the ladders and knowing where they are and things like that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they just want space. I don't know. Despite these elements missing, though, it's an excellent conversion. Plays really well. The sprites are lovely to watch wandering about. It's got all those cutscenes, the presentation elements. They're great to see. I really enjoyed this. I don't think I'd ever actually played it. I knew it. I'd heard the name, but I've never played it. And I don't know whether the score is perhaps a tad low. I presume it was knocked down to 90. Maybe, lack of music, backgrounds, and maybe only with 32 levels. And it not having a typically high difficulty curve, it might lack some of the longevity for 12 quid. So, maybe that's been taken into account. And I get that. I get it. Playing it now, though, I really enjoyed it. A great conversion of a fun arcade game. Just one last note, though. The arcade, weirdly, has a secret second mode with a completely different set of 32 levels, which you can access from the title screen. This was not included here, but, all the main game is. Would I recommend the C64 version of Rodland for someone to go have a look at? I certainly would. I thought this was great. What did you think?
A fine example of what the C64 was kind of built for, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite late into the day, but it's still good for what it is. I like what I played. Some nice details, some decent graphics in there as well, and always fun gameplay. These games are always a kind of a winner. The bubble wobbles, there's loads of those. It is that throwback, isn't it, to a simpler style of arcade, single screeners, really, but a welcome one. These games never lose their currency, as you stated at the beginning, with so many versions still happening. And I found myself getting a lot of repeated play out of this and enjoying it. My only complaint, such as it is the same as yours, black backgrounds. It altered the tone of the game. I mean, there's been some games of this type that have got amazing backgrounds in, and I'm thinking of games, Turrican, Mayhem in Monsterland, the Great Guyana Sisters even. They're just off the top of my head, but there's quite a few of others that have had background bitmap and then had the characters or sprite graphics over the top, and it's a tried, time-tested way to do it. So I don't think it would have been a big challenge for this. I don't get why it hasn't got even sort of colour or anything there, but it is the way it is. And the music omission, I don't know, I found again, it's just, all it really does is affect the atmosphere more than the gameplay. The gameplay's fine. Yeah. And a game like this is kind of hinged upon its atmosphere. It needs to have that. Rainbow Islands wouldn't be nearly as colourful, would it, if it was a black and white island? So I think those things do affect it a little. Now, is it lazy coding? I don't know that it is. Everything else is there. I don't know what prevented it. The C64 is very enabled to be able to create the kind of game of this type with backgrounds and all. So I don't know. Who knows what the real factors were in there. But either way, this is still a very enjoyable and playable game, a really good version of an arcade, which was also fun. It's in that kind of that tradition of these, even like you say, Mr. Do, Dig Dug, but Mr. Do is in there as well and things like that. It's just those kind of games where you've got lots of action on the screen and just fun things happening. So I enjoyed it in the same way I enjoyed all of these kind of, arcade type games of this type. It was kind of what the C64 was engineered to do. And it's nearly there, 95% there. I think the score is reflective of the atmosphere losses that you experience if you don't put colour in a game where you really need it. But there's quite a bit going on. The ladders thing, maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. But either way, I enjoyed what I played. It needed a little bit more colour, but I still really, really enjoyed this. And it's a really good conversion. It is expensive and late in the day for the C64, but who cares now? Now, when we're at the end of the C64's life and some of the absolute toss that we've had to play, if a good game comes along and it fits a throwback to an older arcade, who cares? It's a great conversion of a great game and it plays really well. Good music in there where it is. Lots of fun to be had. I would go and give it a try and see what you think. So I liked it.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Same as me. Good. I'm glad we're in agreement. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. There we go. Thank you, Rodland, for helping us.
Good old Rodland.
In our time of need. That's good, Rodland. Really good. Yeah, there we go. Well, let's move on. We've still got another game to to look at in this part. And I'm sure,
we do.
as ever, I'm sure the quality will remain just as high. And Graham, it's over to you for your favourite type of game to review. This is Striker Manager.
Striker. Okay, $3.99. This was of course, it's from Cult Games. Can they make anything else? No. I've tried to find out, because there's no listing of anybody involved. No beings were involved in the making of this, it seems. But I did find out that the Spectrum version was coded by somebody called Graham Shaw. So maybe this is something to do. But I noticed also on the advert, on the cassette inlay for this, they were advertising for game converters. So who knows who did this and is responsible for it. So, Adrian, Striker Manager. As a young striker in a struggling 4th Division side, when your old manager is sacked, no one comes forward for the job. You are then given the job of managing the first squad. Trying to stop you gaining promotion from the first of 4 English divisions are 15 other teams. You must try and win the FA and UEFA Cups, with the possibility of managing a side in Europe just around the corner, or even a national team and playing for the World Cup. Using all your skill and judgment, you have to survive on the pitch using your shooting skills. Off the pitch, you must keep your club financially secure. On the way up, have you got what it takes? Do you? No. Okay, so guess what? It's a football manager game with an added arcadey bit. Ooh, well, we've been asking for that for a while, haven't we?
Be careful what you ask for.
The player, it says in the instructions, I'm going to go by the instructions because it keeps it simple, really. Player details. To select your team, use up and down keys to move the highlighted bar up and down. Why not use cursors, but up and down at U and D? Okay. All right.
They're not next to each other either on the keyboard.
No, it's stupidly unintuitive, but I suppose it sort of made sense, really. And then you press P to pick a player, then the R at the left-hand side of the screen changes to P for picked. Just so you know, the number of players picked is indicated at the bottom left of the screen. You must select 11 players. Pressing P again will deselect a player. If you have less than 11 players, you can go and buy players to the Buy Players page and obtain free transfers to make up your squad. You want to do that?
You can.
And then it says player data. The page displays various statistics about your players. Use the U key for the up and D key for down to select the player to view in your squad. To change the player's name, press the N key. Press the P, physio, to improve the fitness of your player. If you have any physio points to improve the skill of your player, press C, coach. If you have any coach points, the number of times you're allowed to use your physio and coach is displayed on the top right part of the screen as coach and physio points. To place your player on the transfer market, press S, sell, until Y replaces N. Then go to the list of... This is why I'm reading it as it is. Then go to the list offers page. Press the corresponding key to sell the player. There are 3 different styles that each footballer in your squad can play. Pressing the T key will alternate between these styles depending on how aggressive you want them to play. And so it goes on and on and on. It says, if you have difficulty obtaining any of our cult sports strategy games, blah, 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 why would you? They're all available out there, and there's so many of them. They even list them there. So that's your basic in of instructions that you get for this. That was off the back of the Sinclair Spectrum instructions. And I guess maybe I don't know if a Sinclair Spectrum rubber key has cursor keys available, so maybe that's why it's U and D and P.
No reason for it to be the same on the C64, though.
None whatsoever, no. This is another one of their games, so it is mostly typeface and text and tables, with this time interspersed with some exciting graphics.
Oh, there's graphics in this.
Graphics in this one. They pushed the boat out, did they, though? So it's a football management game, and it gets, like it says, you're the new manager of a team, as well as its striker, though. So you're a striker manager. Hey.
Player manager, yeah.
And this is from Moby. You take your team from 4th Division to the 1st Division, winning domestic and European trophies. If your management skills impress, you have the chance to take on the European team and go on to dominate the world. All the usual football management options are there, including picking your team, buying and selling players, and giving a team talk. In team selection, you can pick yourself and drop yourself if that's to the benefit of the team, which seems really stupid. The actual match highlights are text-based with a clock ticking away with the important parts of the game appearing. If your team have the ball to shoot at a goal, or if the opposition are about to shoot, then the game changes to an arcade sequence, quote unquote. You see the goal from the halfway line at an elevated angle, and you have a couple of seconds to move a bar, which either is the direction of your kick towards the goal or which direction to move your goalkeeper. Most of this is large format, typeface, multicolour menu systems with lots of key presses to think about. Just on one screen alone, you've got G to go to match, S for select team, D for division table, P for player data, B for buy players, Y for your record, O for opposition facts, T for team talk, M for marksman, TBL, marksman table, R for record table, L for list offers, and then you can save, obviously, and save your team, load your team. You'll also be given the balance of your team's coffers, the capacity of your ground, of course. It's always about the bleeding capacity of the grounds, isn't it? Like, it matters.
It does matter.
I suppose it does in this. Well, yeah, not for me, it didn't. And, how many followers you've got. I suppose what I'll say about this variation of their game format is there's probably a little bit more to it. There's a little bit more under the hood. So there's a little bit more stats and stuff you can manage. So it does feel like there's a bit more managerial stuff going on. And because of that, there are perhaps a little bit more modes of play for this. So you're maybe going to get a little bit more out of this. There's a little bit more to go at. I think a bit more thought got put into this one. So I tried it. I mean, what can I say? I went through the options, the endless dreary options of key presses. It ran like many of the other cult games for me. You can actually, like I said, get fairly under the hood with this, naming players, team selections, selling, buying. Oddly, you can't select a formation though, which seems something that I would have thought would have been really important in a football game. And I don't know anything about football. So that just seemed odd to me. That seemed missing to me. I thought, where's the bit where I choose whether it's 4-4-3 or whatever the hell all that is? But it wasn't there. And also, I think it suffered the same problem as the other one, where you can just fill your team with useless players, if you like, that don't really seem to fit. You can train them and you can move them around, but that part seems a little bit arbitrary and a bit perfunctory, really. Then you get to the kind of action sequence where you're transported with eagle eyes back to 1983 and shown some kind of crap pixel-based animation that you can allegedly influence with some kind of 2-second timing thing. I don't really get what it's trying to do, really. We've been asking for them to put some football in the football games, but I think I actually meant like an actual football game in there somewhere, like the Manchester one or any of the others that are better.
Or even Football Manager, where you get highlights of either end and things like that.
Yeah,
back all the way to that.
It's a little bit more animated when the game's playing out. There's like graphics and text that flitters between this person scored, that person's got that, and then when you do get to the goal, you see graphics. I wouldn't say they were very good. It looks like they were borrowed heavily from the Spectrum version of this, which is where all of these games live, really. And so it comes up with this kind of spectrumized visuals where you can moderately influence, like I said, something maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure that I did. I don't know. I don't really get what this is doing that's vastly different from all the other games of this type. It's more of a competitor for the more established manager type games. I can understand that with you sort of like getting into the sort of the details of the players and the aggression and things like that. That is a little bit different. I don't think we've seen anything like that before. And the transfers and buying and selling of players and things like that does give this a little bit more unpredictability and a bit more open to chance of things happening. And it is a little bit more involved. I'll give it that. But that would mean you'd have to be wanting to play something like this, which I don't and never do. So, my enjoyment from this was nearly zero, at least for the most of the game. The sheer entertainment of seeing that crappy Spectrum-like arcade sequence there with its weird token sound effects, that made me laugh out loud for ages. So it was perhaps worth it for me for that. Maybe for those who want to play another keyboard-driven variant of the same thing, I think you'd find something. I don't know who buys these. I don't know if somebody is buying these who's a collector of these, because none of them seem to offer anything that different. This one has probably got more in it, but if you've bought 6 of their other games, I don't know. Are you going to take the chance and see if this one's the one where they put a bit more effort in? I don't know. I don't think this one's in basic either. Looking at it, it might be for all I know, but I don't think it was. So whoever put this one together, I think they'd probably done a slightly more professional job. And because of that, it has a little bit more around the edges. But ultimately, it's still the same thing. Tables of data, football stats, a little bit of arcade sequence. And yes, you can do all the things you can normally do, but are you really going to do this? Or are you going to play Football Manager, which has established the kind of the rules for this, or any one of the other more established games, or any of the other cult games, of which there seems to be 20 by now? So I'm not sure who the audience are for these. I don't know why you would keep churning them out. But they do, and they did, and I'm guessing that they can't have made any money from these anyway. Somebody must have bought it, maybe 1 or 2. So this isn't the worst cult game out of all of them. It's certainly not as good as the other manager games, but it scored an okay-ish score comparatively, didn't it? I think it got 64% here for $3.99. Is it $3.99's worth of value? I don't know. I think $1.99, I think you might have got away with this, and it would have represented a bit better. But as it stands, it was never going to appeal to me, but I guess it's a better version of a cult game. That's not saying a lot, though, is it? What did you think?
No, I'm pretty much exactly the same. My first sentence is, this is not as bad as some of the other cult games we've looked at. The inclusion of sound effects and a little bit of visual representation do actually go quite a long way, especially when it's you having to shoot and you got to press S at the right time to actually shoot. So I'm wondering if this is the people who did that Striker, because it had the same weird kind of from the bottom rather than from the side.
Could easily
anyway,
be.
I mean, Striker could be in it. You can put on subs in this.
Yes.
During the game.
Details.
So you can do stuff, and you can even, like you said, change the team tactics at half time. All right, in comparison to others, by definition, this makes it better because there are things you can do. However, selecting your team is odd, because as you rightly said, there's no formation. So you just put and when you start off, you only got 12 players, or I did. So you just pick, a series of players. And what you get is an amalgamation of numbers that lead to a score for defense, midfield, and attack. I didn't like that. It's like, what does that even mean? It's like, this is because especially when the teams I was playing in the same league were far higher, but that didn't really matter anyway because I still won.
Yay!
I don't understand. So although all that stuff is there, none of it makes any difference because I was crap and they were good, and I still managed to beat them. But I did want to pick a formation. I was like, I suppose by definition, maybe I am picking a formation by the plays I'm putting in, but it didn't really matter. Just gave you a number. I don't know. Maybe you just cannot have everything in these games. What takes with one hand, giveth with the other. I don't know. I didn't particularly like this. Not in a great way. I think my comment is I was not as annoyed by this as the rest of their output.
No, I think that's
so
as good as their reviews are ever going to be, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I was tolerant of this. This was like, okay, this ain't that bad. Some of it, U and D stupid. We've got cursor keys. If it's just up and down and pressing a button, give me a freaking joystick option.
Yeah.
The
Spectrum heart of these is showing through really there, isn't it? Because you'd have had to have plugged in your Kempston interface, whatever the hell that even was.
Your Kempston Mark II or whatever it was.
Who the hell were Kempston anyway? Why did they keep making interfaces?
I don't know. It sounds like a ship from Elite, the Kempston Mark II.
It does, yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't as annoyed with this. But it's not worth 64%. Nah, it's not. 40, 50 push.
Yeah. It's expensive for what it is and a variation of what they've already done.
But there you go. It's another cult game. I'm sure we're going to see more. I'm sure we will see more in the dying days of the C64. But
there's a big old list of them on that bloody cassette inlay, so I don't know whether we played all of them.
I know. I'm just looking to see where we're up to on this. It's I'm just looking on Lemon. Striker Manager is there's only 3 more after that. One of them's 2-player soccers. Look to that.
2-player soccer, yeah. We've had that
but there's 2-player Super League somewhere. Is that reviewed in Zap? No, it's not. Thank God.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that is it. There you go. Maybe. That's Striker Manager. Not as terrible as the rest.
And you can take that to the bank.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to give you. That's it. That's all I'm going to give you. And that's it for this part. That's our first couple of games. We've got 2 more to come later on. But right now, we're going to go take a break, have a bit of a drink, then come back. And we're going to talk about the small screen and the big screen and what was showing on both of those in the month of September 1991. See you in a bit. And we're back. And on the 5th September, sad news, this is sad news, the actor Arthur Pentelow, who had died previously on the 6th of August, makes his final on-screen appearance as Mr. Henry Wilkes in Emmerdale. And his character died off-screen on the 3rd of October. He's only 67, no age.
It ain't no age.
It's no age. Now then, Mr. Wilkes.
Mr. Wilkes, yeah.
Mr. Wilkes. So he was basically the co-owner? Was he co-owner or barman at the what was the pub called?
Woolpack.
The Woolpack, yeah, the Woolpack. The Woolpack Inn.
Why I know that? I've never watched Emmerdale in my life.
I knew it at the back of my head. I'd thought it and then it went out my head. So yeah, it was Amos Braley and Mr. Wilkes, Henry Wilkes. They ran the Woolpack, which was the pub in Emmerdale. And he was a likable character.
He was.
Sort of a bit of a foil to Amos's more sort of off the handle stuff.
And do you know, my granddad used to run a pub called the Woolpack.
Did he?
He did. Where? Back in Summercoats, North Summercoats, back in the very early 80s.
Wow.
Late 70s, 80s. He was the landlord of the Woolpack and then the Bay Horse as well at one point, which is also a pub in North Summercote.
Oh, wow. Did he have like a monopoly on the pubs there or something?
No, he was landlords moved around, didn't they? So I'm assuming that he was welcome there. He didn't just go in and just assume control.
We have assumed control.
He was quite a character, though. Let me tell you, quite a character, famous. In fact, at one point, I think he was the landlord of one of the most violent pubs in Grimsby. believe it or not, which was I think it might have been the Mariner's Rest or it was Fisherman's Arms, one of the really old school Grimsby pubs, the type.
Okay,
yeah, spit and sawdust places at the time, and where
like
all the fishermen used to go.
Like Hope and Anchor.
They go and spend their money. The fishermen would come away from obviously being at sea, they'd come back, spend their money in there, and beat up a few fish and that kind of thing.
We're talking somewhere around Ryby Square.
I can't remember which. I'd have to look it up and see which one it was. But he was famously like. And the reason I know all that is because in a box of his stuff that we found after he passed away, we found all sorts of his infamous sort of pictures of him at all these pubs and everything else. We knew he'd been landlord there, but he had like sort of memorabilia, including his set of brass knuckles.
Wow. Okay,
so that shows you how back in the day.
You're going to need some in some of those pubs.
Yeah, exactly. Established control the old-fashioned way. A thunderbolt punch to the forehead.
I'll do it. Those lumps aren't coming out. On 9th of September, there were new idents launched on Children's BBC, featuring the BBC corporate logo. And Graham, nothing says children's TV like a corporate logo.
And what is it with the BBC and the stupid?
I don't know.
Welcome to CBBC. Here's your new logo. I haven't got anything. I haven't got any cake or anything on it.
No, it's just a corporate BBC logo.
You're part of the BBC now, child.
It. Where, are you watching this? Do you have a license?
Do your parents have a license? Report them.
Yeah, we could send a man round in a van. You like vans, don't you? It's a fluffy van. Just let us know if they've got a license or not.
Yes, we carry teddy bears on them to keep you happy while mum and dad pay the heavy fine for disobeying the law.
Absolutely. We'll come in your house even though we have no right to.
Yeah, absolutely. No right of entry.
No. 11th of September, ITV aired Thatcher, The Final Days, which you can guess what it is, a dramatisation of the final days of Margaret Thatcher's premiership. It starred Sylvia Sims as the former Prime Minister.
It did. I mean, everyone was doing Margaret Thatcher impersonations, weren't they, in the early 80s?
90s.
And all that, yeah. And then it went on to the 90s. That's her story. I mean, this it shows you how much political resonance she had, because they're still doing stuff on it now. Recently, we had Brian and Maggie, which was the tale of that a TV interview she did, wasn't it? And then there was also Thatcher, The Final Days. She also appeared in The Crown, of course. Margaret Thatcher was in The Crown as well. So loads of dramatisations.
She was a big political figure in the UK. I mean, she completely changed the UK.
She did, and if you watch the new Adam Curtis thing, you'll discover a lot more about it than you perhaps need to know, and you'll be like, oh, I feel doomed and bleak and a little bit confused.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's very,
it's
very
a weird
good.
one, isn't it? Because he's got no narration. How's that work?
No, it has text on the screen. In the tradition of Adam Curtis documentaries. It is insanely good. So it's on iPlayer for those that, go and watch it. It's called Shifty. Very, very good.
Okay. 13th September, the documentary The Leader, His Driver and the Driver's Wife airs on Channel 4. This was set during the final days of the apartheid regime in South Africa, particularly centering on Eugene Terre Blanche, founder and leader of the far-right white supremacist political organisation, the AWB. A year later, Channel 4 faces its first libel case by Gianni Allen, a South African journalist who objected to her representation in the documentary. You put a link to this. I did watch a bit of it. It's
it's the first opening sequence. There's people marching into some kind of neo-Nazi thing, and it's heavy-duty stuff. And you forget history, and a kind of a point, oddly, of the whole Adam Curtis documentary is that history is basically a remix, and you forget the original histories because everything gets a bit remixed and retold. So you never really know what truth is. But when you watch that, it's sort of a reminder that there was some really horrible politics in the world around the 90s, and a lot was going on everywhere. And we're not that different now, really, I suppose, in some ways. But you just forget. You forget, as time goes on and you live your life, you just sort of, these things disappear into the mists of time. And then when you see something like that, you're like, wow, God, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that flag wasn't very subtle, was it? The big flag.
No, obviously no. I mean, nothing was subtle. Even the quasi-military outfits looked quasi-military.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's just not a nice thing. I mean, it's an interesting documentary if you're interested in history, but it is quite a strong stomach. You need to watch that kind of right-wing.
It was what's his face like Nick Broomfield, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. It's good, but it is good. It's a tough watch. It's a bit like watching any of the Louis Theroux stuff, where he's deep diving into some of the really dark parts of the world, or the piece he did on what's he called? I won't even say his name,
Jimmy Savile.
Yeah, the entire all of those. When you're watching those, you just it's a bit of a history lesson and an uncomfortable one, I think.
Yeah. 14th of September, though, Channel 4 airs A Night in Japan, a night of programs dedicated to all things Japanese. That goes from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah, I was trying to find out if there was anything really major on.
Be Jonathan Ross.
I was going to say there must have been something Jonathan Ross and Mangary. I couldn't find a program listing, but I think there's this fascination with Japan, and it's been consistent for years, and we time skip through Japan. So, samurais and ninjas, everyone's like, oh, that was amazing. That's a dead tiny part of their history, which is really rich, ancient history and amazing. And samurai is a really important part of that. But there's a whole ton of stuff. That Dan Carlin is an eye-opener if you want to learn about Japanese history of a certain period. I mean, there's an epic podcast to listen to. But the fascination of the apparent strangeness of Japan, that's still going again. Most recently, a program called James May in Japan, I think, and there was a Paul Hollywood one as well, where he went over to Japan, and they all do the same things. They go, well, let's go to a tea, let's go and have tea and proper tea. Let's go and dress as a geisha. Let's go and dress as a samurai, or let's go and chop some wood in half with a samurai sword. And
let's go to a pachinko cafe and stuff like that.
Yeah, then we'll go to Tokyo and let's dance with a robot, and we'll go and get our car parked, and we'll vend some underpants or something from a machine. And I'll sleep in a hotel where the bed is like a tube. It's just they're an advanced technical people and civilization, and they just take Japanese culture is a very pristine and a very proper culture, and so ritual and all of those things are really important, a really key part of all of that. But it's not all they do. They're not just a nation of quirky, kind of repressed manga addicts or anything like that. It's nothing like that, and that's what they kind of in the 90s. That's what we were kind of getting, wasn't it? Because of the manga was having a bit of a explosion, wasn't it? So this was a lot of this would have been, and don't get me wrong, it's important that we saw a lot of the manga animations and stuff because they were prior to this kind of hidden. So. Or rebranded and redubbed in terms of things like Battle of the Planets and things like that. So I get it, but I don't know. As they say in Japan, sugoi. Oh, there you go.
What's that mean?
Cool.
All right, okay. Sugoi. Sugoi indeed.
Not zang, as we were led to believe by Wayne's World.
What does zang mean?
Nothing.
All right, okay. I bet it does. I bet it does mean something. It probably means chips.
It means sugoi.
Sugoi, cool. 20th of September, BBC Two begins a rerun of Jerry Anderson's classic 1960s series, Thunderbirds. The series proves to be popular, leading to a shortage of TRACY Island toys in stores during the run-up to Christmas. Something that prompts Blue Peter to show viewers and their parents how to make their own TRACY Island model. An instruction sheet produced by the programme receives more than 100,000 requests. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. When you think about it, nowadays, it's like an email campaign that somebody could run off their phone. But back then, that was a big deal. 100,000 requests. They always did big things like that, didn't they? Thingy.
Yeah. Imagine getting the order for that printout. That's going to run a few Canon
imagine the
printers into
postage. You're like, why did we make it so well? Now we've got to send 100,000 letters out. That's expensive.
Imagine that now. It's 14 quid for eight stamps now.
Exactly. I mean, I found a video of them creating the TRACY Island, but that was from 1993. So I'm guessing they just kept on, doing that. Because it was popular. So. And it does look pretty good what they make. I'll give them credit where credit's due. There's a lot of paper mache and double-sided sticky tape for speed, but it looked pretty good. And their felt tips never ran out. Mine always did. So I don't know when they bought their felt tips. But
you had a half-coloured in Island.
Yeah, because your greens and your reds and that always run out, and they're not the same as the expensive ones. You get a pack of felt tips for Christmas, wouldn't you? I always did. Still
from
do.
A cracker. That's where I got them from.
Yeah, I tended to get an actual pack of felt tips, but they didn't last long. I never left the lids off or anything, but people did, and that used to wind me up. It still does. Anyway, don't start me with that. But I did actually watch the first episode of Thunderbirds because I thought, okay, I'm going to revisit it. And let me tell you, that is exciting. That's exciting. It's exciting. It's really well put together, Thunderbirds. You forget. It
did make me laugh when I realised sort of thing that Mission Impossible had been ripping off that first episode when he pulled his mask off. And it like the face, I was like, that's just Mission Impossible. He pulls it off and he's like,
well, if you think about it, when it was made, that opening montage is they all were kind of doing that style, that and lots of quick clips, and they all were kind of doing that. However, I really, really enjoyed the first episode of Thunderbirds. You forget, I mean, puppets aside and everything, and obviously they're puppets, but you know, that Super Mario Nation was so colourful and so colour rich and explosive and exciting. I defy any kid to watch that, even if you're, you know, if you're a kid in the 90s watching a program from the 60s. It's really vibrant and exciting to watch. Mm-hmm. And the models are dead good. You know, it's like Thomas the Tank Engine on speed. It's so much crazy stuff happening in that show. I mean, the guy that's praying to a statue at the beginning, and he's like, you know, it's really cool stuff.
And you can obviously they can get away with it because, you know, it's just models, so they can just, and everyone knows it's models, but they can just throw them all around the place and just be doing loads of crazy stuff. You don't have to pay stuntmen, all that sort of thing where real people action. They could just do like the bit where the plane's crashing and all the you know, things taking off. It's just
I loved it.
It is good.
I really enjoyed it, and of course, it's all helped by having such a wonderful piece of music. I mean, goodness me. One thing I'll say about Jerry Anderson shows is that he knows how to get somebody to do a great score. Because Thunderbirds, you know, just that countdown, 5, 4, it's just brilliant. And then of course you get that. It's just, I actually really, really enjoyed that. So much so that I actually went to watch Terrorhawks as well, because I thought, I remember Terrorhawks being quite good, and Terrorhawks was even better. I was like, I'm watching all of them. Such a good series. So cool. Well,
I'm glad you've managed to revisit them, Graham. I'm happy that's brought back.
I tell you, I found the whole series of Starfleet, so I'm happy because I can watch all them many times over, and I'm going to.
There we go. 22nd of September. Maybe we need to do a comparison for the Battle of the Pilots with.
Good.
What would we do? Thunderbirds versus Captain Scarlet.
It's the same people, though. I mean, it'd be
I know it is, but we see which is the better.
Yeah, I suppose you could.
That's no point.
Maybe what's that one they did with Underwater? What was that one?
Stingray,
Joe 90. There's loads of them, isn't there?
Whole raft of them, yeah.
Battle of the Puppets instead of Battle of the Pilots.
Battle of the Puppets, yeah. 22nd of September, sponsorship of ITV programs is allowed, and thus Cadbury's became the de facto thing for Coronation Street.
Oh, of course, forgot that. Yeah, sponsored by Cadbury's. Yeah.
Everything's sponsored by somebody now, isn't it? Everybody. You can't have a program that's not sponsored by someone. Brought to you by 3 Mobile. Brought to you by this.
Something's got to pay for them, you know. Something's got to pay for them.
It's
not free. Well, yeah, but that's it. But it's still, they provide money for income to make those programs.
I tell you what I do notice, though. I watch Gogglebox. So I like Gogglebox. And we generally tend to watch it on catch-up on... I don't pay for 4, so I pay on 4X, whatever it is. So it's the free version. So we get all the adverts beforehand, which is fine. It's like about 2 minutes. Okay, just watch them play. And then we get the ident. More often than not, all those adverts play perfectly every time, and quite often the program won't play.
Yeah.
So you're just left hanging. You have to stop it, and then you go back. You have to watch 2 minutes of adverts again, and it's like, why do your adverts always run perfectly?
You know why,
but the program doesn't. Doing. Yeah, I know why. It's dead annoying.
Treachery, Adrian.
I know.
It's treachery.
Yeah. Also, as well, if you try and pause it, the screen goes off. So you can't pause the advert. You can't look at them, or you can't. No, or even now, if you pause the program, an advert will pop up.
Yep.
So, for God's sake,
they know what they're doing.
I don't need to know.
They know what they're doing.
Damn them. New shows. There's quite a lot of new shows. One in particular that's brilliant. 1st of September, it's not this one. Trainer, British television series about follow-up to the long-running series Howard's Way, or sort of spiritual, filmed in and around the village of Compton near Newbury. The series was set in the world of horse racing.
No, that's straight out of Compton, but not the same one, is it?
Nay.
Nah. I came to the conclusion, looking over the most of these programs and certainly the films, I wasn't in. I must have been out because the loads of these things just, where the hell was I? I didn't see half of these.
Yeah. 2nd of September, Tiny Toon Adventures.
I don't like it.
No,
I didn't like any of them. I didn't like the Muppet Kids, whatever they were called, the Muppet Children. I didn't like this one. I didn't like the Animaniacs particularly, although that had the odd thing.
Yeah.
But this one was, with Tiny Toon Adventures coming China and all of that kind of thing. And it had a little baby Bugs Bunny and a Daffy Duck, and they weren't very funny. And they were in nappies a lot of the time. And I'm like, just no.
3rd of September, 2.4 Children started.
That went on forever, that.
8 years. 8 years of it. Yeah, 8.
Very popular.
It's a television sitcom that's created and written by Andrew Marshall. It follows the lives of the Porters, a seemingly average working-class London family whose world is frequently turned upside down by bad luck and bizarre occurrences. I mean, maybe it's not, but it's Married with Children. It's that British.
Loads of shows like it.
But this would all sort of culminate with the better version, which was Outnumbered a few years down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which is a great show.
Outnumbered is far better. I just posted a clip there where she's like, where the little girl's asking him some stuff, and it just made me laugh even that clip. What's a twat?
I've rewatched all of the Outnumbered, including the most recent ones as well. They're always good.
Yeah, they're very funny.
There's some really pertinent episodes of that as well. Some really sort of sad, which is always the good thing. A really good sitcom can balance its comedy with a little bit of drama in there. It can afford it. It gives an affordance for that. All the best ones do. I never rated 2.4 Children. I remember, I'm obviously aware of it because there was a show of its type. What I didn't realise, when I watched the little clip I found of it, what I didn't realise was how bad the haircuts were in it. Goodness me, the women's haircuts were harsh. That was the return of the bob, wasn't it? Goodness, it was like not the inverted bob. No, it was a full, just heavy bob, like really heavy bob. Heavy fringed bobs. Wow. I mean, I know Gary's a big fan of the old bob, but they were overly heavy fringed, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Just coming back to what you say, good comedies. They have pathos. When they have pathos, you have heart. When they have heart, they can get at you. Like watch the sad episodes of Only Fools and things like that. Those great episodes. Yeah, always the better. The Fast Show with Ted and Ralph. Yeah,
absolutely. Or Motherland as well, which is one of my most recent favourite TV shows of many years. Yeah, and
Scrubs.
Well.
I remember Scrubs having quite a few.
Oh, Scrubs. Oh, God, there's some tear-jerking moments in Scrubs. My gosh.
A really good bit. The Michael J. Fox one, the one with his Brendan Fraser one.
Oh,
God, the Brendan Fraser one. That was heartbreaking.
So sad. My God, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yep.
Oh, that's just made me go all tearful. Anyway, 4th of September, this made me go tearful. Grot Bags.
Yeah. I mean,
we've talked about these before. It was off the spin-off. Grot Bags was the witch from Rod Hull and Emu's Pink Windle or whatever it was, and this was a spin-off show, and it was dreadful.
It was, but for the audience it was aimed at, maybe it was fun.
Yeah, maybe.
There was this really weird addiction, and you will see this as we get a bit further down, where there was just this idea that children's TV just had to be chaotic, and this was led by the way that the BBC had developed their sort of live kids shows, so to Live and Kickin' and from Swap Shop and then over to Saturday morning. So the idea that kids shows, and Tiswas, of course, had sort of set the scene for it. But there was this notion that percolated around in the early 90s that in order for kids shows to be fun for kids, they had to be wacky and zany and stupid stuff had to happen and full of cartoons and crazy stuff happening all the time. Crazy. And so Rod Hull and Emu were another extension of that. And of course, by proxy, these characters that were in it then got their own shows because they were what crazy can happen. And Grot Bags was basically a character that beat children. That's not very nice. But then Rod Hull and Emu, he was a man obsessed with fisting birds. Now, we spoke about birds being, we look after the birds of the world, the RSPB. He didn't, did he? I mean, bless him, he died falling off the roof of his house, didn't he? But long and the short of what I'm saying is that Grot Bags was an extension of a character set that weren't very nice anyway. But in order to be wacky and zany and popular with the kids in the 90s, you just had to go down that kind of avenue. And a show where anything can happen and probably does, well, who better to entertain the kids than a giant, fat, green-faced witch with an evil cackle, some kind of turd that falls out of a cauldron at the beginning that talks like a famous poet. Very strange show. Very strange.
Very strange. And it all culminated in this 4th September TV Mayhem.
Short-lived TV Mayhem, yeah.
Yeah, short-lived British children's Saturday morning television series that was originally a replacement for Hey Hey It's Saturday after it was cancelled. They said for just 6 weeks for the breakfast television channel TVAM. It was presented by Chris Evans. Late went on to obviously do the Big Breakfast and Don't Forget Your Toothbrush and, shake up, a lot of British sort of game show TV. Had previously hosted a similar show on BSB Music Channel called Power Up. TV Mayhem was all intended to direct lift of Power Up. I watched a little clip of it and it's very annoying.
Yeah, it's what I mean. It's just a scramble of visual crazy. Yeah. Although Hey Hey It's Saturday sounded like Krusty the Clown's TV show, which I was hoping it would be.
Hey kids, it's Saturday. We've been cancelled again.
Oh, who killed the monkey?
4th of September. So it's loads of this around the point. I think you've put these all sort of part of something. So the first one is Fender Bender 500. This was a spin-off of Wacky Races for the 1990s.
It was Wacky Races into an actual short form episode in the race, which was part of a program called Wake, Rattle and Roll, which was another wacky, crazy show where crazy stuff happened and introduced lots of crazy things. And this was one of them. And the Tumbleweed 500, which is a clip I found, was a episode of Fender Bender 500, which was just Dick Dastardly, Muttley, and all of those characters in it, Clunk and all the others. Now, I really liked the wacky races, so I'd probably be like that, because I always found there was something endearing about Clunk and the way he just talked complete gibberish and whistles, and everyone just totally dug it.
Yeah.
So
it's like R2D2. There was also something called Monster Tales on the 4th of September.
Yeah, another animated show that was part of the Wake, Rattle and Roll.
Yeah.
Wasn't very good.
No, but then there was Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures.
There was, which was part of TV Mayhem.
Yeah. So, but this had, as you've noted, I watched an episode. Tried to watch sort of long clips, and it sounds like it's got Keanu and...
It is them, yeah. Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter,
yeah. And Rufus.
Yep, yeah. It's the characters. It's the comedian, isn't it? I can't remember his name. It'll come back to me. But yeah, it's in.
Yeah. It didn't seem very funny, though.
No, the adventure is that they have to do exactly what they did in the first movie over and over again. Well, how much mileage is there going to be in that? They've already solved it in the first movie. So they've got a problem. You need to bring somebody from history and teach them a lesson about whatever. Okay, let's go, Ted. It's just that. And I'm like, well, what a pity they didn't have the vision to think of something better. But it does have the same sort of style of music, and it is their voices. And I suppose that gives it a little bit more legitimacy than if it was fake voices and stuff going, party on, dude, or whatever.
Which it would do. And it was George Carlin, by the way, was Rufus.
George Carlin, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I thought it was quite... It reminded me of Fonz and the Happy Days Gang, which was another animated show, which was genuinely weird, where all of the Happy Days gang, including the Fonz, flew around in a giant multicolour spaceship. But there you go.
You can get away with anything in cartoons. Anything goes.
You really can.
Anything goes. 6th September, there was Victor and Hugo.
Yeah,
British crime comedy. Yeah, by Cosgrove Hall. I don't remember this at all.
No, you won't do, because it was Cosgrove Hall, the people that made Danger Mouse, weren't they? I think.
Yeah, Danger Mouse, Count Duckula.
Yeah. This was not very good. That's the problem. And I watched one of the episodes, and the voice acting was not great. Maybe it gets better, I don't know, but it didn't run for forever. So
yeah. Anyway, 6th September, there was Get Stuffed. For 3 years. This was part of Nighttime from Granada or something. What was this?
Obviously, network TV was going late into the night by this point, wasn't it? If not 24-hour nearly.
Yeah.
And so all of the networks were scrambling for TV shows to fill in the gaps, because they just didn't have a lot, outside of The Hitman and Her and a few other shows. There was a lot of time to fill. So this is a program. I could not find a thing about it. I'm guessing it's some kind of cookery show, but I
don't know. If it's late night and it's called Get Stuffed. I don't know.
You never know what it is. I mean, bear in mind that some famous... Davina McCall made her big impact on a TV show that was shown in this kind of late night slot, wasn't it? She was on that dating show, which was kind of weird.
Dating show, yeah. Yeah, we had loads of girls, didn't you, and one bloke on it or something.
Yeah, something like that. I forget the rules of those shows. It's probably an early version of Naked Attraction, which is a show that is not something I want to think about right now. So anyway, the Granada, Get Stuffed was on Nighttime with Granada, and probably other night times with, well, not Granada, all the others. What it actually was, I don't know. I couldn't find a lot about it. I could find a lot about the other programs, the ones with Casey Kasem, if you remember America's Top 10, or American Gladiators, which was on at that time, and all of that. And of course, we've been watching Trans World Sport for some time at this point, and keeping us awake for hours. So
yeah, you start watching that, you ain't sleeping for an hour.
No, no, and that still is the rule to this day. Let me tell you.
God's Gift was that Davina McCall one.
God's Gift, that was it. Yeah, terrible thing. And of course, we used to stay up and watch some of these shows, because The Hitman and Her was always a bit of a compulsion. Yeah. I don't really know why now. I think back, but we was the Raw Power, wasn't there? We used to watch. There's quite a few we used to watch. And of course,
we didn't used to leave your house at this point till about 4 a.m. Yeah,
because we'd be waiting up for things like Sledgehammer and stuff like that, and
just walking back through the night.
On 20 cans of Coca-Cola and several classy Mars bars and shit like that. So we were awake.
We were awake and there was no chance of us sleeping.
No, and we used to have to transfer down to the lounge because we couldn't stay up because my parents had to go to bed. So we needed to be downstairs, even though we made just as much noise, and that was directly below their bedroom. But at the same time, it meant that your farting had a wider, much more volume to escape into, because the lounge was a lot bigger than my bedroom. So You were free to gas out the lounge. Although I remember my mum and dad both coming down going, "It stinks in here. What have you been doing?" I was watching telly. I knew what we'd been doing. Really, we'd been unleashing the demons.
That's what you get when you have like bags of Bobby Spirals.
Oh, exactly. Bags of Bobby Spirals,
Coke,
a Twix, and then
Snickers, Twickers,
three or four cans of Coke through the night, and you were nesting a baby that was you were giving birth to a Coca-Cola fused chocolate laden Bobby Spiral of a fart. It took those things take a while to both percolate and spiral their way out. You farted in spirals.
They're the best way. They keep going. 16th September, standing room only.
Youth show from Janet
produced by Youth and Entertainment Features Department. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, you know exactly what that's going to be like. But it features some interesting people in there. David Baddiel, Rob Newman were in it with some kind of sketch shows in there. Rory Bremen did voices for it. It later led on to Def 2's Rough Guide to the World with Magenta Divine. That was a good name. It was, but it's Janet Streetpot, so you know exactly what that's going to look and be like because she only ever seemed to produce those kind of shows, aimed at the youth of the time, as it were. Yeah.
Double O and an F.
Yep.
Yeah. Pick of the week, pick of the month, though, on 17th of September, Bottom started.
Yes.
For those who don't know, and you probably all do, it's a British sitcom created by Rick Mayall and Adrian Edmondson. Ran for 3 series from 91 to 85. Focused on Richard, Mayall and Edward, Elizabeth, Eddie Hitler. Aid Edmondson. 2 unemployed, crude and perverted flatmates living in Hammersmith, London aspire to better themselves. Became known for its chaotic, nihilistic humor and violent slapstick comedy. And it's absolutely it cracked. I was watching some of this today and I was just still laughing. So many good episodes. I found a clip here which we'll post in the show notes. It's 10 minutes of ultra violence from the show. It's just like them beating each other up, smacking each other over the head. There's a bit where he sticks a tip of an umbrella into his nether regions. He's just, the look on Adams's face, he's like, oh, it just cracks me up all the time. And then when he pulls it out, the tip's gone. He's like, oh. There's a bit where he rams Rick Mayall's head, eye down onto a spike. It's like, oh, it's like, God Lord. It's just so good. And they were so funny. The Christmas episode, I still laugh about that. Gold, Frankenstein, and Grr. A diamond virgin. Just
classic. So it's a classic. A natural progression of several characters of Rick Mayall's and Aid Edmondson's
gradually
turned into those two. There's a bit of cat. Was it Cats? What was it called?
You think Catfish? You're thinking Filthy Rich and Catflap.
There's a bit of Filthy Rich and Catflap. There's the young ones. There's the Dangerous Brothers in there as well.
The Dangerous Brothers is the real. That's those two. It's the Dangerous Brothers grown up slightly.
Yeah, and it's those two of all people can really pull everything of that off. It was such a funny show, and such a tragedy, of course, what happened to Rick Mayall.
Yeah, dreadful loss.
But at the same time, we have these things to look back on. The guy was gifted with physical comedy, as is Aid Edmondson. I mean, there's so much in it. I mean, even the amazing comedy stalwarts like Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer owe a lot to Bottom in the terms of the later slapstick and frying pans to the head and all of that kind of thing, because these guys were really doing it. And I regularly get checked back in on the Gas episode, the Gas Man episode, because it's genuinely hilarious. It's truly, truly brilliant. When he writes the note and he said, I was just partaking my hobby, which was bus surfing, because they push him out of a window. It's genuinely brilliant TV. Everything about that episode and all the others.
It's got Brian Glover in it, looking angry as Mr. Rottweiler.
Everything
Mr. Rottweiler.
It's just perfect. It's perfect, classic, crazy, slapstick British humour.
And don't forget Mr. Jolly Lives Next Door as well. It's a distillation of that as well.
It is, and it's all those things made into almost the perfect sitcom. And if you right people to do it, goodness.
Yeah, and if you also want a good laugh, if you've never watched them, they're on. They'll be on somewhere. You'll be able to find them. But they're live shows
on YouTube.
The live shows are so funny. The first one where they lose the lines, that bit in the middle where they can't remember what to say. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and where Eddie inadvertently punches Rick for real.
Got me there.
Yeah, and he actually clocks him one really hard because, of course, they do exactly what they do on the TV show, but on the stage. It's a brilliant, brilliant show created by two really brilliant British comedians. maybe I don't know who wrote it. Maybe they did as well.
I think they did.
Just
I think
everything about it was TV gold. And again, rightly, it's in the in the polls of the best British sitcoms. It's up there in it's in the poll. Should we say it ranks? Which, considering this was up against the Faulty Towers and things like that, is saying something.
Yeah,
special.
I was surprised it was 45th. I thought it'd be well higher, but I don't know.
But then you think this kind of thing. What is it up against? Again, you're up against the Faulty Towers and Dad's Armies, and they're
up against themselves with things like Young Ones and things like that.
Yep, exactly. It is amazing though. Bottom, it's so good.
And I suppose their own output, especially Rick Mail's output, like New Statesman and Blackadder and things like that.
There's Blackadder again, another great one as well. Yeah, no, I mean he even plays a similar character in that when he plays Flashheart.
Flashheart, yeah. Yeah, love him. Love Rick Mail.
Hooray!
Yeah. And it was weird to watch. What was we watching the other day? Because we watched Andor, all the Star Wars stuff, and then we had a bit of a Star Wars binge and watched all the new films.
Oh yeah.
After Andor, and Aid Edmondson's he's one of the Imperial fleet, Imperial commanders. I was like, oh, that's weird. Aid Edmondson is just strange to see him when you see him in other things, because he'll always be Eddie Hitler to me.
Yeah, same. Or Vivian.
Yeah, or Vivian, yeah. 25th of September, there was the Specials. No,
TV show about police special officers. Yeah, BBC, fulfilling their remit to bore everyone to sleep at 9:00.
Yeah, true. 25th September, there was the Men's Room. I don't know what this was.
Some kind of black comedy set during the Thatcher years. It doesn't sound that funny.
No, it doesn't. A story of an affair between two academics, a previously devoted wife and a mother, and a serial womanizer. I watched a clip of it, sort of thing, and there was one of the lines in it. It goes, "You should like a bit of it. You're emancipated, aren't you, or something? Or
yeah."
I was
it got Amanda Redman in it. I seem to remember her being quite foxy at the time. She was a bit of a TV fox, and it started off with kind of rude sounds. Anyway, didn't it? The first episode?
She was just waking up from a dream.
Yeah, but it's still rude sounds.
Yeah. It was. I had to turn it down.
Yeah, exactly. Because what is he doing with those candlesticks?
25th September was Paul Merton, the series. I didn't think this had aged well.
No, I think. An extension. He was popular at this time, and there is the odd thing that's funny, and he is a funny guy when he wants to be, but this flitted between things that didn't make a lot of sense, and it was a little bit incoherent as a comedy. It wasn't consistent anyway.
No. Let's just get through the next couple. 26th September, there was Spider and Brum. They're two separate shows, children's TV shows.
Yeah, get your own back in there, another one. I don't remember any of those. Brum was about a car, that's all I know.
Yeah. Let's get on to the films. 6th of September, you could have gone and watched Oscar.
You could have, if you really wanted to.
Yeah, the action man does comedy. Stallone and Schwarzenegger at this point has switched to doing these comedies. So you had things like Twins, Oscar, Stopping My Mom Will Shoot.
Yeah.
Then we got Junior and all these kind of things.
It didn't really land. This was John Landers as well. It just shows that even those two combined couldn't make this funny.
No, it's not a good film. It's a bad film. Jungle Fever was also on that day, a Spike Lee film.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
No, I've never seen it either, so I couldn't comment. Close My Eyes. Sounds a bit saucy. An estranged brother and sister begin an intense sexual relationship behind the curtain of their otherwise normal working class lives. Saucy and incestual.
Yeah, I suspect it's a Rudy Pooty one.
It's got Alan Rickman in it, Clive Owen, and Saskia Reeves.
Okay.
Saskia Reeves was recently in the excellent Slow Horses, which I can highly recommend.
I didn't rate it.
Did you not? I really liked it.
No.
There you go.
Just Gary Oldman in his dirty socks all the time.
Oh, Gary Oldman's brilliant in it. He's great in it. It's fantastic.
Take that under advisement.
Welcome Home, Roxy Carmichael was also
never saw it either.
No, we know the Ryder film, so surprised I never did, but don't think it appealed to me at the time. And there was something called Chattahoochee.
Yeah, again, I've not seen it.
No, don't know. 13th September, Only the Lonely.
Chris Columbus comedy-ish.
I don't think I ever watched this either. Did you?
Yeah, it's a John Candy movie.
John Candy, Ali Sheedy.
It just suffers from the problem that a lot of his later movies suffered from, that it wasn't very funny.
Yeah. He's not a leading romantic man.
No, that's what I mean. Just
miscast,
God bless
misplaced.
Him.
It's like, it just, someone like Ali Sheedy, just not saying they couldn't, but no.
He only worked really as the folly to something else. That's how John Candy's, that's his appeal. So even in films like Uncle Buck, where it's about him, he's kind of not, he's the main character by name, but it's really down to Macaulay Culkin's character to sort of give him the balance.
Yeah.
And that kind of works. But when it's done like this, along with a couple of the other films, they just don't really work for John Candy. It's a shame, but they don't.
They don't. There was also Regarding Henry.
Mike Nichols movie.
Yeah, Harrison Ford, one when he gets shot and he loses his memory as a lawyer and must relearn how to talk and get his mobility back. But he has a loving family to support him.
Exactly. If you listen to any Doug Stanhope comedy, he would describe that as somebody being shot directly into Camp 2. And you'll have to go and listen to some Doug Stanhope stand-up to understand what that means. But yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I know someone who was obsessed with Harrison Ford back then. And so it would go on and on and on about this and all the other films that he was in to the point of tear-inducing nausea.
I did go to see this at the cinema and I told myself it was good.
Yeah, it probably is. I'm not.
I think it's worthy.
I remember it getting quite a lot of attention at the time because, it was Harrison Ford playing against atypical Harrison Ford stuff. So
yeah. There was also a film called True Identity.
Yeah, I remember it vaguely and I remember it for the bad reasons. It sounds awful.
Yeah, well, I watched the trailer for it. I watched a few clips of it. In order to escape from the mob, an African-American man must disguise himself as a white man. This African-American man is Lenny Henry. In one of the clips, he's labelled the English Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, he really isn't.
No, he's not. So it looked awful. It didn't look very funny, but that was the thing.
Again, that's the problem with it. It isn't.
No, some horrible stereotyping and stuff as well. But hey-ho. 20th September, If Looks Could Kill, also known as Teen Agent.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for this. His hair is inexplicable. He's a bird, and it's inexplicable, his hair. Just a whole different hair.
I don't know why. So he's a teen, and he has to take a summer class in French, a class trip to France to graduate high school. He's, however, mistaken for an agent, and people try to kill him. There are 007-style cars, cuties, crooks, etc.
Yeah, with a hairstyle like that, I can see why people might want to attack him, to be fair. They're like, no, there's no place for your hair here.
I mean, he's a real-life Condor man, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Actually, literally is. His hair is a bird.
Yeah. If you didn't fancy that, why would you? You could have gone and seen Life Stinks.
Yeah, unfortunately, the only thing that stunk from that was the box office receipts.
Yeah, it didn't do well, did it? Mel Brooks film.
No, it didn't. Yeah.
There was also FX2.
Murder by Even More Illusions.
Yeah, absolutely. Special effects man helps his girlfriend's ex, a cop, with a sting operation where the ex gets killed. Something's off, and he investigates with help from an ex-cop PI friend. This is just a sequel no one wanted or asked for.
No, and it also nowadays would have been a TV show. It played out like a TV episode or a TV series, really.
The first FX, Murder by Illusion, fine for the time, nice idea, that kind of thing. But, the FX well has dried up on this.
Yeah, and Brian Brown, who is he? Apart from being C64's favourite actor.
He was in Cocktail.
Or is it a Citadel Miniatures paint colour? I'm looking for a brown. You need Brian Brown for that. There he is. Hiya.
No, it's not quite right. It dries out too quickly. And
you need Brian's brown. Oh, no, I don't.
No, thank you. Stepping Out was another film you could have gone seen.
It's Liza Minnelli, darling. Liza Minnelli.
Yeah, okay. That's not for me. And Trust. Never heard of it. I don't know. After being thrown out of her house, Maria encounters a married woman who complains of not having children. Maria ends up in an abandoned house where she meets Matthew. When a baby is kidnapped, Maria sets out to find the woman.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it, no. Most interesting film of the month, 27th September, was Jacob's Ladder.
Adrian Lynn film, yeah.
So I watched this recently. I was thinking, I hadn't seen it for a while, so I thought I'd watch it. And this is half a good film and half a very confusing mess.
Yep.
The first half is good, where you don't know what's going on. Then they try to explain it, and it just becomes like really?
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it away. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, because the first half is really good. Some great imagery, some really kind of weird, otherworldly kind of imagery, some spooky stuff. And it's really good up to about the halfway point. Some really nice stuff in it. But then it just loses its way. And then the end, when you think about the ending, makes no sense. It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely none. Which is a real shame. What this film did do, though, was inspiration for a lot of films and media afterwards. I think a lot of things take visual cues and inspirations and sort of plot beats and things to kind of, that maybe not so much the ending, but especially I've known a lot of students that have referenced back to this for kind of horror imagery and things like that. I think I don't know where this was getting stuff from, but it seems to have influenced a lot.
I think Adrian Lynn for Jacob's Ladder is heavily influenced by David Lynch.
Maybe.
I I see in that first, and in the more abstract and the more surreal sequences, I see a lot of David Lynch in there.
Quite possibly.
So it's kind of like, Hollywood's David Lynch as opposed to David Lynch. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's got good, but like you said, the second half is a letdown, and it just loses its way madly. But I think it's almost impossible to sustain the kind of aura of peculiarity that this film imbues at the beginning. And so I don't think you can sustain it unless you have a resolution that's going to make sense. And I don't think they could do that.
I think you had to go whole hog. You had to really embrace the weirdness and just go for it. And that may have needed a David Lynch, whereas I think this was reined in probably by Hollywood or whatever.
I think, if anything, I'd say it's probably leans more into, it's a David Lynch-esque vibe, but it's leaning more into perhaps a Clive Barker-esque type notion.
Yeah. It had a very long, I know it was quite a long gestation period sort of thing. Its production, it was written way earlier than when it came out. The guy started writing it in 1980.
Goodness me.
So
he never stopped. His pen never ran out of ink.
So it basically was a very different. It went through a lot of script changes and changes over the 10 years. And I think it never kind of coalesced properly into what it could be, I think. Yeah. It's a good idea here, but like I said, that ending just unravels the whole thing.
Unfortunately, which is a little bit of the story of quite a lot of films in the 80s. And I suspect the reason is exactly as you've specified, as the studio took one look at this and were like, you better make that make sense by the end of that movie, or we're never putting this thing out. It's crap.
Yeah, exactly. But there you go. Rhapsody in August also came along. That was the same day. 3 generations responses to the atomic bombing of Nagasaki.
Mm-hmm. That'd be heavy watching, wouldn't it, in a cinema?
Yeah. There was something called Under Suspicion. Starred, this was, what's his name? Liam Neeson. It's basically, it's another steamy thriller. You put the cover design for the video rentals flew off the shelves. Yeah.
It did. Yeah. I mean, it was one of those covers. It was a bit like the Red Shoe Diaries. This was going off the shelves quicker than we could think. I mean, I wonder what it is about it. And then when it's like, it's just some late night post pub entertainment for some lonely men, I think.
Yeah. It had Laura San Giacomo as well. She was the lady.
She was the lady in it.
She was the lady in it. Yeah. There was also The Object of Beauty. Andy McDowell and John Malkovich.
I know. There's a duo that nobody wanted. McDowell and Malkovich.
Together at last.
Together at last, yeah. Nobody wanted that. He had currency, though, didn't he, at the time? Because, of course, he was fresh off Dangerous Liaisons, and everyone thought he was super sexy in that. So, and Andy McDowell, well, she was,
not realising that he was actually sexy in that because of the sort of film it was, and the Frenchness and the
makeup and the story and the la-di-da,
and then when he was just in a suit, it's like John Malkovich.
Yeah.
The Object of that's The Object of Beauty. A Rage in Harlem was also out.
Yeah, Bill Duke directed that, didn't he?
Is that Bill Duke from Commando?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, sadly passed away now, of course, but yeah, it was him, Bill Duke. Yeah, Bob Duke's brother. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Terry Duke's boy.
Yeah, it's the one of the Duke family down Duke Street. Makes the jukeboxes, fine jukeboxes.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Duke a Lord. A gangster's girlfriend flees to Harlem with a trunk load of gold after a shootout, unaware that the rest of the gang are on her trail.
Sounds like a lot of movies that Quentin Tarantino later went on to write.
Yeah, probably. Finally, you could have gone seeing Meeting Venus. Hungarian conductor plans bold Tannhauser production and opera politics, artistic egos, nationalism, union conflicts, and funding challenges in critique of grand opera and European Union.
Yeah, and an audience of nil point.
Is Glenn Close in this? Is that why you put a picture of her there?
Yeah, I put a picture of Glenn Close and Glenn Farr.
Yeah, she is. And there she almost is. I've never heard of it. No idea. There you go. Bottom's the highlight out of that lot.
Absolutely.
So if you take one thing and you fancy going having a bit of a laugh, go watch some more Bottom, or just look at the clips we'll put in the show notes. We're going to go away. It's quite a long TV and film section. Take a little break, have a little drink, come back. Still got 2 more games. Crapbert, what's coming up, charts, all that kind of thing. Stay with us. We're back, straight in. We've got another budget title up for the first game in this part, and this is Interchange. Well, to give it its full title, I guess, from the front of the cover, this is Inspector Hecti in the Interchange.
Okay.
A budget title from High Tech. Hecti, High Tech. See what they did there?
I see what they did.
Yeah, this got 60% for the £4 you might have spent on it. 60%.
Okay, not bad.
So that means it's worse than Striker Manager, though?
Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever.
No, not whatsoever. So this is copyright PAL Developments. Developer here is Digital Design, coding by Dave Saunders and Nick Taylor, graphics by Ashley Routledge, and music by Haroon Tell. We've seen most of these people before work on all kinds of things. Gapless to Adidas Championship Football, Hot Rod, just loads. I'm not going to list them all. But
Ash and Dave.
Ash and Dave, they've worked on tons of stuff. We've mentioned them on many a time. So
many a time.
This game was released on multiple formats, though, Graham. Multiple formats. This was released on the Amiga, ST, Spectrum, and the C64. No Amstrad version, though. So you CPC 464 users can bog off.
Yep, you're not having it.
You're not having it. You're not having Inspector Hecti. You don't deserve it.
And you never will.
No. So in this game, it's Insector Hecti. Insector, not Inspector. I keep saying Inspector. I keep seeing the word Inspector because Insector's not a word. Insector Hecti, the high-tech hero, the world's first computerized detective, has been sent to the Interchange. Victor Virus and his gang have invaded this highly sensitive area, and it's up to our hero to put matters to rights.
Okay.
You take the part of Insector Hecti. You must free the whole of the 50 areas of the interchange by realigning all the junction blocks and at the same time rid the area of Victor and his vicious gang. An audible noise shows when a block is in its correct position. This is what the instructions say. A number of different types of bug exist, each with its own pattern of movement. Study these patterns carefully, or they could be your undoing.
Ooh.
The game loads up. We get an interesting title sequence. Not sure it fits the game. Looks like we're going to get some kind of space shooter. We get scrolling parallax Starfield.
We
which
do.
is nice, you know. Credits coming up in the middle of the screen and a decent Haroon Tell budget title piece of music. He has these kind of pieces of music thing. I think he's just got a piece of music and it's like, can I have a piece of music, Haroon? Here you go.
Yeah, he's got one in the back pocket.
Yeah, I'm not sure it goes with the game. It's a solid piece. It's quite good. I could quite like it. But it is what it is. It's a tune for that's been made. Pressing fire starts the game, and you're asked to enter a password if you have one, or just press enter if you do not to start at level 0. It then asks your name, and this is because it will remember who cleared the level in the fastest time. Although disappointingly, there is no high score table or anything in this game.
No,
a bit of an oversight. Once you've entered your name, the first level will appear. All right, so what is this? It's the game itself. It's a single-screen puzzler. We've seen loads of these recently. Loads. This is another single-screen puzzler.
Seen a few.
The background is a sort of single-colour, or sort of two-colour, high-res scrolling design that changes for each screen and scrolls in the counter direction to when you move. It's kind of weird. If you move to the right, it starts scrolling to the left. So I think it's doing to indicate movement, but it's odd. I don't know. Atop this background is a level. This is the level itself, and it's essentially a series of paths that at first all connect. They're kind of in a grid. I don't know how many it is across and down, but they're chunks of a grid, and they make a path. They all connect, so you can. This is kind of a loop. But at the start of each level, a number of them will rotate, and thus the connected path that was there is now broken. Okay. So you appear as little Hecti, and you must move about the maze-like level with up, down, left and right. Nice and simple. You just got to move along these paths. It's a maze, and you move through the maze. But obviously, some of it's now blocked because the pieces have been rotated. Now, at any point in any of the maze, you can press fire and rotate the piece of track you're standing on. Okay, so you can change that, and that kind of is handy for certain bits. But any part of the grid you're on, you can, the pattern, you can sort of rotate it. It'll rotate it in 90 degrees. But essentially what you need to do is to get to the pieces that are out of sync with the pattern, the ones that have been rotated at the beginning. You press fire on them and they rotate until they're in place. And you know this because it makes a satisfying ding noise. And you're like,
it does.
Ding.
It's the machine that goes ding.
Ding. And that's good sort of thing because that's kind of oral feedback. It's always handy in a game. You're not guessing. It's like, oh, I did the right thing. Hey. It sounds easy enough, but there are enemies. What was his name? Victor Virus's gang. They wander around the maze as well, just back and forth, up and down, just wandering around. Should they make contact with you, you lose one of your 5 lives, and you must start the screen again from the very beginning. You lose all progress. You lose all 5 lives, and it is game over for you. So the game itself takes up the whole of the screen. Quite nice, and the UI is placed in the bottom border. Good tech. Nice tech touch. Good stuff, that is. I always like that. So we've got a lot of screen real estate to play with. The UI itself shows your remaining lives, the time left to complete the screen, the number of bullets you have left to shoot, and the level you are currently on. You have 8 bullets at the start to fire. They're bouncing bullets. They bounce through the maze if you shoot them. You can only fire them whilst running. So if you're moving and you press fire, that's how you fire the bullets. If you're standing still, obviously it rotates the square you're on. So you have to be moving. If you shoot these at the enemies, you kill the enemies. They don't respawn, but it's possible to clear the screen and then take your time to solve it. You do have a timer. Like I said, there's a timer counting down. That's at the bottom as well. That's in the UI at the bottom as well. And basically, that's how you get a score. So the quicker you've solved the level, it tells you have 800. You got a count. It goes down from 999, and it goes you cleared it in 834. The quickest time was 864 by Rob. You're like, oh, okay. If you do it faster, it goes you've now got the quickest time. Doesn't save though, so who cares?
Yeah, true. Seems a bit arbitrary, doesn't it?
Yeah. When you complete a level, you move on to the next one. It's principally the same thing, just with different visual background, different colours for the maze. Some of those colours work better than others, I thought. Some of them are a bit hard on the eyes. You're like, oh, that's garish. Lots of yellow and bright blues and purple backgrounds. And you're like, that's hurting my eyes. I imagine that the old CRT screens in the early 1990s were buzzing with some of this, and there was bends and stuff along that straight borders all over the place. The enemies change up as well. Some move faster than others and so on, but they can't do much. They just go along and move it around, but they do move faster and there's more of them. But like I said, you can shoot them. It's also possible, like I said, you can kill the bugs. You can rotate a piece just as they're about to hit it. So even if you're stood in the middle of a normal passageway, if there's a bug coming towards you, just as they're about to come onto your piece, if you rotate it, the wall will instantly rotate and they'll just hit the wall and die. If you rotate too early, they'll sort of turn tail and go back the other way they came. So again, easy enough to kill them. There are things to collect within the game as well. Extra bullets. So if you've run out of bullets, you can collect extra bullets. These kind of just appear within the maze. They don't last very long, so you have to get to them quite quickly. According to the instructions, there is the imploder. This is a smart bomb. That just kills everything on screen. It's like, okay. There's a shield. This allows you to destroy bugs by walking into them. There's a speed up to make you go faster. And there's a stasis, and that freezes the enemies in place. You just run into it and it uses it. And that's about it. Really. After completing 5 levels, you get a password. This allows you to start from there. So if you 5, 10, 50, 20, it's only 50 levels, so kind of handy, and that's kind of it. You basically go to a new level, sort out, and move on. Clear it of the things, get all the little points that are around, twist into the right place. Some of them are quite tricky, and you kind of got to go to the right way because you can kind of block yourself off. And you're like, oh God, I've got to go all the way around the maze to get to the other side of this one thing. But some of them, if you think about it, they're all quite logical in how to sort of progress through them. So there's a decent base here, I thought, for a deeper game. From a technical point of view, it's very good. I thought I can't fault the tech on show here. There's a nice front end. That Starfield, the music, the sort of credits appearing, the fonts, the sort of sprite type fonts, all very good. It's decent. The graphics in the main game, they're good. They're solid. They tell you about just a little garish in places, weird color combos. The sound effects are good throughout. Like I said, information conveyed well to the player with a little ding when a piece is placed correctly. That's all nice. The controls work fine. The whole thing is bug, if you'll pardon the pun, free. The use of the UI in the border is also good. I can't knock any of this. I think what it needed, though, was more challenge. It's what Zapped said about it. It's not that hard to progress, and the screens, because of the size of the pieces, never change. They never change from screen to screen. So you've got to, like I said, it takes up the full screen, but I think you've only got something like about 8x7, or it's not even that 8x6, or I'm not sure what the actual resolution is of the kind of chunks that you're sort of moving around.
8x6, normally.
So it's not,
or 9x6.
So it's not that big, and and it never scrolls. So it's just a single static screen. You've only got so much, and there's usually only about 6 or 7 pieces that you need to get to rotate around. Once you kind of figure out, and once you kill the enemies and they're gone, you can just take your time. It's not that hard in the slightest. So it never gets that complicated to work your way through them. You couple this with the password system, and get to level 5, start with level 5. Get to level 10, you just keep, it wouldn't take you very long to get through this quite quickly. It's not bad because it's not. I enjoyed working through the screens and working the puzzles out, but because there's never really any change to what you're doing, it becomes a little one note. There's some different bugs wandering about, but the challenge is never, nothing happens. There's no sort of weird things in it. So I'm not saying it's bad, because it's not. I enjoyed working through the screens and the puzzles. It just gets a little one note after a while. But it is a budget game, so maybe I can forgive it to some degree. It's £4. There's some good tech. There's nothing inherently wrong with this. It just feels like a couple of extra design decisions would have made it better. Bigger mazes that scrolled around or something like that. Or some things like we saw in Chip's Challenge. That kind of thing, perhaps, or squares that did different stuff rather than just being a flat maze throughout. So you could have had squares that with one, like we saw in the other one, that logical one where, was it logical? Or where you had to push the marbles along, get the colours on like Downfall, where some squares would only allow you to go in one direction or things like that, or they would spin around, or they were ice, you couldn't stop on them. And things like that we know exist in these kind of games would have made this a more interesting thing. I never found any, so maybe they're later on, but I just don't know. It's a good base to make a deeper game. I can see why it got 60%. It's better than bloody Striker Manager, but 60% is about right because it never really iterates or moves on, I thought. I looked at some of the later levels and it doesn't seem to move on from the early levels. I like the idea, though. Technically, it's very good. It just needed more variety as it went on and more things for the player to actually have to think about in order to solve the screens. And that's a bit of a shame. It just seems like they did the bare minimum, made 50 screens of it, and that was it. It was out. There you go. Fair enough. But it got what it got. That's what I think. What do you think?
I thought it was all right. It's a budget game with budget sentimentalities, and 60%. I would have given it a little bit more. I think there's a good playable game in there with no real bugs or anything like that. An interesting take on the kind of one-screen puzzler with some nice details, some decent graphics in there. Good. It's a good overall presentation, albeit with a bit of demo-laden, shizazzle in there. But it's not terrible. It's just like you said, it got developed as far as they were going to develop something that was going to cost $3.99.
Yeah.
Had they put a little bit more pizzazz, a similar story really to what we said about the ball game last time. It just needed a little bit more stuff for the player to get involved with, other than just do what that is.
Some extra world mechanics going.
Yeah, that's what it needed. It just needed that, an extra month in the lab just to put some more thought into what you could get the player to do and what other puzzles and challenges there could be. I whizzed away through the first few levels of this in no time whatsoever. It was really easy.
Yeah.
And I didn't anticipate it. It didn't seem to be getting much more difficult in actuality. So I think that there's, as you say, there's limitations to this. I think had they put more in where there was bombs and things picked up and platforms that you had to spin but they only went one way, and certain things where you could only do certain things in a certain position, and it's just teleporting and things like that, just added all of the things that this game desperately needs. And just take a note out of Rodland's backpack. That's a one-screen game. You just up the ante on the things that can be done and what the enemies can do, and put a little bit of cutesy in it and stuff like that, and you'd have had something. But the UI on this at the bottom, I'll admit that it's nicely done in the border, is a very good example of perfunctory UI design.
Oh, yeah,
it is. But what I mean by that is that it's representative of the whole game ethos. Everything is kind of perfunctory and placed, and it serves its purpose, no more, no less. A little bit more thought and a little bit more design, and you'd have had something a little bit better for the money here. So I think it's an okay budget game, but no more, no less than that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, like I said, because there's a good idea here, but more time in the oven, as we rightly say. There you go. That's Insector Hecti in the interchange. Insector. There we go. We still got one more game left. And Graham, it is over to you to grab your pool cue and tell us all about American 3D Pool.
Well, if the game ever did exactly what it said on the tin, this would be it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
$3.99, 83% though, which is a healthy score. Published by our friends at Zeppelin Games. They've done loads of stuff. This was coded by Stephen Walters. He did Tilt, which is a game that we quite liked.
Yeah, it was.
And 3D Pinball, which is also a game that we quite liked. He did the graphics here too.
It's clear.
Yeah, you can totally see it. And the music here is Thomas Morgensen. He's got quite the list of music. It's not that we'll come across much of it in our time, but he's one of the newer musicians, and there seems to be quite a catalogue of music that he'd done for games that comes later. But the music here is pretty good, very jaunty, very jovial, very of its type. And then what else can you say about this game? That it is actually a little bit of a hat trick of games, because you've got 1 or 2 player pool or tournament pool. You've got 1 or 2 player billiards or tournament billiards. So billiards is a game I've never really understood. No. And then you've got trick shot mode for this as well. Okay. The rules of pool here, this is American style pool. So it can be a one-player game. The one-player setup for this is weird, because if you go into it and actually choose one-player game, you get a one-player game, as in it's a game with just you practicing, really. Yeah. If you want to play a 2-player game, which is you against the CPU, you have to go into 2-player and then not put someone's name in for the second player, and it will select the CPU.
Bit counterintuitive that I found, but
yeah, it's a bit odd, but it is what it is. And so, okay, the rules of pool then. The aim of the game is to pot 3 balls of the same colour and then move on to the black ball, which is American style pool, similar to how we play it, only we play it with more balls, don't we? The first ball potted decides the colour, and if you hit an opponent's ball before striking your own or pot the opponent's ball, it's a foul and awards the other player 2 shots. These shots follow on, but the free ball rule does not apply in this, as it doesn't apply in American rules. Potting the black, unless you're required to do that at the end of your 3 colours, is a game-ending thing, as it is in the UK, really. Lots of people grab the ball out of the pocket, don't they, just before it goes in, and, they apply the pub man rules to it, but if it goes in, it's actually game over, you've lost.
Yeah, indeed.
It's the ultimate foul. So the game starts with quite a nice view of the 3D view of the pool table. And sort of festooned around it are the number of frames there's left, the number of balls you have, the number of shots you have, and the high score and the spin and the power indicators. And so you'll start the game in whichever mode you choose. I didn't play billiards on this because I don't really understand billiards. It does explain it in the instructions. It tells you there. Billiards can have either a 1 or 2 player game. There are 2 cue balls, 1 white and 1 yellow, as well as a red play ball. And then there's a whole series of scoring. Missing all the balls with a cue ball is a miss. Cue ball goes straight into a pocket is a coup. Potting a red or ball. And by that point, I'm like, I'll stick to pool. Thanks. You're all right.
Yeah.
Don't need any of that shenanigans. So I started the pool game, and quite nicely, you'll get the triad, as it were, of the 6 balls at the end, and the black, of course, where it's 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 balls, I guess.
Yeah.
And obviously, you then are in the D, and it's shown. So the first screen you see is the 3D view. Then when you actually go to take your shot, it goes to a top-down view and like an orthographic view. Yeah. Quite nice that it does. A very straightforward control here. You've got a target reticule where the ball is going to go, and you choose your angle, I guess, and position where you want to shoot that. You then press the fire button. That will increase the amount of power. It will then go to the 3D view and it will pause. And then at this point, you can use the joystick to put top spin, bottom spin, left spin, or side spin on it in either direction. So you do that. If you do that and press your button, the shot is played out in the 3D view, which is quite nice. The movement in the 3D view is perfectly fine. You can't rotate it, but you can press a key to go to the opposite end of the pool table. But there's no 3D rotation or anything like that. This is just a 3D fixed view, albeit that it is nice. There's some really good sound effects in here for what they are. The ball clacking sound is satisfactory when you pot a ball and it goes into the thing. It sounds exactly like that sound. I give credit where credit's due. The guy knows he knows the sounds of balls hitting wood. Make of that what you will. He does. And that's how the game plays out. Obviously, you take your number of shots. The idea is if you pot one of your balls, you've got then another opportunity to pot another one. And the idea is you pot the 3, pot the black, win. And then you do normally the best out of 5 games, or you can increase the best out of, and whoever makes it with the advantage wins the overall game, of course. I think there's probably fun to be had with this game. It's very simple in its setup, and it adheres simply to the rules of pool. Like I said, I didn't play billiards or do the trick shots, but this doesn't fall afoul of any kind of non-earth-based physics. It's pretty straight down the line. The way you play the game is different to the way the shots are shown, and the movement of the balls in there, it's a bit floaty, but it kind of works, and they scale quite well. And the players that you play are not completely infallible. They make mistakes. In fact, the first player I played was worse than me, and that's saying something. So I thought this had a really good jaunty soundtrack, like I said, to start things off. It has a really nice 3D pool table view. The graphics are good for what they are. And the balls move around and they have a nice shady effect, which gives them a nice sort of overhead table view. That's all quite nice. A swift thumbing of the fire button gives you the sort of controls. There's a sort of sound when you put the power up, kind of a did sound, which gives you a good indication of how much power you're putting in. That's quite nice. A bit of tactile there, a bit of audio feedback. That's good. Everything's quite basic, but it is exactly what you need. And like I said, you've got a few different game options here. I think you could play a nice budget 2-player game of pool of this. You might get mileage out of it playing it 1 player. I don't know for how long, but you might if you like this kind of thing. But there's a good game in here, and it is a good pool game. And we don't see many of those. And I think what I'll say is this. The orthographic view and the 3D view, was I disappointed that it wasn't more 3D than it sort of laid itself out? Is it overselling itself a little bit? American 3D pool sounds like it's a 3D engine, and it sort of is, and it sort of isn't. It's kind of the tilt engine and the pinball engine, albeit somebody probably said to him, you could make a pool game out of that. And he was like, maybe I could. And so it isn't bad. What I'll say is this. There's a good pool game in there. There's a good billiard game, I imagine. It adhered to the rules and the physics. The physics were fine. The controls were very simple. I was able to get on with it, and I was playing pool. And if that's what it was aiming to do, and a budget price, it did it very, very well. Wasn't the most exciting game in the world, but it was better than a lot of them snooker games we've seen. I'd like to have seen this guy do a snooker game. I think there's perhaps a way you could make it work for that instead of those ping-pongy ones that we've had the experience of, or those repeat where they keep making the same game and calling it something different. So a decent pool game to be had here, decent graphics, good audio. I thought this was quite good. The score's about right because I don't know how much mileage you're really going to get out of it. And as much as there's a few extra games, it is just pool and billiards at the end of the day. But I quite like what I played, and I don't think I would have liked to have seen maybe more pool variants, like maybe the UK version as well. That would have been quite a nice addition to this. I don't know how possible that is because the table's a lot smaller for American pool, isn't it? But anyway, I enjoyed what I played. It's pretty good. What about you?
Just to not to spoil anything, but Zapped issue 82, Championship 3D snooker by him.
Oh, there you go.
So we've got this to come in a few issues' time, which is exactly the same as just snooker table. We've also got, also weirdly, does something called, will we get it? Yeah, we will get it. Bully Sporting Darts. He does a darts game, which is in 3D. That looks weird. But yeah, you can instantly tell this is from the guy who did Tilt and that 3D pinball game. It's the best pool game we've seen on the machine by some margin.
Yes, it is.
I know we had that other 3D one, but that was dead slow and didn't quite work properly. The visuals for this are smart. The 3D effect is impressive. Like I said, even though it's just from one end or the other, but it does work. And the various options for playing this are plentiful for a budget game. It's very good and it runs really well. There's no slowdown. Technically, it's very proficient, which is kind of what we're going to expect from this guy. This guy can make balls roll very well around a 3D environment on the C64. We saw it in Tilt. We saw it on the pinball game. Now we see it here. Loads of nice touches as well. Like in the thing, I loved it. I really like the foul shot display on the cushion.
Yeah.
That lights up when you do one. So that's quite nice. I like that. The way the balls roll into the rack as well. So you can see because it's got them at the bottom, hasn't it? So when they pop one, it comes rolling in. That's nice at the bottom as well. When they're potted, the sound effects as ever are good. It's a real surprise. I wasn't sure would ever get a decent snooker game, but if anyone was going to do a decent snooker or pool game or something like that, it was going to be this guy, wasn't it? Because he can, he's figured out the tricks to actually make balls roll around in decent physics and 3D on the C64, and he's applied it to pool. Good stuff. I really enjoyed this. Like you said, though, it's a bit weird at the beginning, and I suppose it's called American 3D Pool, hence why there's no British version. But it's weird that the one-player game is just a single-player game. It does have a trick shot option editor as well, doesn't it? Where you can create trick shots as well. Yep. But I will say as well, don't do what I kept doing. When you've lined your shot up, hold the fire button. I just kept pressing it, thinking that was going to place, and I'd go to the power, but it doesn't. You hold the fire button down to get your power up. If you just press the fire button, you'll do the tap of the ball.
Yeah, you've got to hold it down.
Yeah, and I kept forgetting and just going, God's sake, and just doing little tap, little tap. And I was like,
Vic, I've fallen, Vic.
I've tapped the ball. And that wasn't very good. So I was like, So I kept doing that annoyingly. So don't do that. But yeah, good game. Another good, technically very good. Best pool game we've seen on the machine by some margin. There you go. That's it. That's your 2 games. 2 more. That's it. That's September done. That's your 8 games. What did we look at? Actually, this week it's not been that bad, really. Rodland's really good. Striker Manager wasn't as bad as we thought it was going to be.
No, it wasn't.
Insector, Hecti, and the Interchange was a pretty decent budget puzzler that just did a bit more depth. And American 3D Pool, another good, £4. You wouldn't really moan at £4 for that pool game.
No, I don't think so.
So I think that's actually been quite an okay week. Who knew?
Who knew that?
Yeah, so there you go. That is September 1991 done. I think probably looking at last week without when you were able to play Soft Squad Ball Game Rubicon, I think Rodland probably takes the crown this month.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's very good.
It's a very, very good conversion, Rodland, so that's a recommendation for you to go and play that one. There was, of course, a lot of games not reviewed because they are budget releases of stuff we've already looked at. So, Graham, what do you think of these budget releases? Footballer of the Year 2 for £4.
Probably better than the others.
Renegade 3, the final chapter for £4.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan, but I know you liked it.
No, I didn't. Target Renegade, I liked.
Sorry, I got it mixed up.
Renegade 3 was the weird, high-budget, travelling through time one.
Oh, God, yeah, no, egg.
Moonwalker for £4.
Yeah, not a Michael Jackson game.
No, Galaxy Force, that was that 3D, really ambitious 3D arcade port. Ballistics.
I remember that being okay.
Can't remember. Played so many. Hammer Fist. Remember that looking good? That was the one by Hugh Binns and everyone wanted. It looked good, but played a bit eggy.
Yeah.
Shinobi. That was good. Did you remember?
Yeah, I think that was okay. I think I'm losing track of them all, honestly.
And Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the action game.
That was crap, as I recall.
Yeah, that was good. That one good. We need to look at the cover of the ball game.
Okay, I'm not sure what I'm looking at really. Why? This looks like people firing pins at something.
They look naked. They look naked men throwing balls. I don't know what's going on personally. I was like, what the hell is this? Because if you look at that in isolation, it's a bit strange. I don't know.
Aren't they meant to be the elements? So I know one's fire, but what's the other one? What's he? Water? Where's the other two?
I don't know. It's just a weird cover. I just looked at it and was like, that's a bit of a strange cover. It's because there's a green one in the middle there. I don't know. It just struck me as why there's the two sort of what look like semi-naked people. Why have they got air packs or jet packs? They're not flying around in the game.
I don't understand really how that represents anything to do. It looks to me like there's two two elf-like divers firing bobby pins at each other.
That's what I mean.
It's nothing to do with the game. Why aren't there any tiles on there? Why aren't there any I don't get it. Like you say, it's also quite badly drawn. I'm not sure what put that together. And the logo's an abomination. Don't just make it a lowercase a and then just squeeze a ball in there and move it like that. It looks stupid.
The kerning on the is
Don't even get me started on that. And that is always a bit of a tricky thing. Actually, when you're kerning text over, and especially if you're doing it over a serif font like that, you do face the dilemma of this and the curse of this serif L. Because if you've got an E over an L, where do you align the E? Do you align it over the stick of the L, or do you align it over the tail of the serif of the L?
Especially when they're different sizes like this.
Yeah, and the way that you do it is not like that. So that's not, and the reason it's thrown off completely is because of the lower A, the lowercase a that's in ball, which throws off the complete dynamic of the layout, which is why it looks peculiar, because it then looks like, even though there's a bigger gap between B and L with an A in it than there is between the two L's. And then the gap's emphasized by the gap between the T and the H and the E. All of that was unnecessary. Basic, typesetting school would tell you don't do that.
No.
But well, they don't listen, do they? And also, because they've called it the ball game, you've also got the BALL and they've got the GAME. And so you needed to really align that to not a lowercase, because it looks weird like that. And so you've got two A's, and also you'll notice the A at the top is slightly elongated compared to the one at the bottom.
A at the bottom.
Yeah. Again, because they've stretched it, which is a stupid trick to do as well. There's no need, but they've done that so they can fit that stupid bloody green ball in there for no reason whatsoever.
No, because you drop balls behind you. You don't fire them out of a gun.
Yeah, exactly. And where's the other two elements? There's 4 elements in that. Why aren't they on there?
I don't know. That's what I mean. It just looks like two naked men flying around, one on fire, one wet.
Yeah, and you don't even fire at each other, really, do you?
No, you change the colours of the balls.
Yeah, and you're walking. Like you say, you're not flying, are you?
No, you egg a ball
Very
out
strange.
In the game. And
is it necessary for that one at the bottom left corner to be completely pantless?
They're both pantless.
I know, but thankfully his tackle's not dangling down. His fiery tackle on the top right one, but the bottom one you can just about see his arse crack, and you don't need to see that. That's unnecessary. It's the ball game. It's a completely different meaning if you think about it in this image.
That's where they're egging the balls out.
I'm saying it's just called it. But neither of those characters have got balls. Literally, they're they're naked, but they've got no genitalia of any description. One's got an ass crack. What's going on?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
What is he as well? You'll notice the one on the bottom left is vibrating. They always have him vibrating. What's he doing?
I don't know. He's shaking off the water. The other one's on fire.
Stupid. So stupid. Electronic.
I mean, he's on fire,
indeed.
and why has he got a visor on? The one in the top right. Have they got helmets?
He's fiery. No, the one at the bottom left. Has he got a helmet? Is he? I don't know.
I don't know. It just looks like he's got a Blue Mohican. It's very hard. It's a very odd cover.
Sounds like a gay bar, though, doesn't it? I bet he'd go there as well. He'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, for the bit of the ball game.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was a bad cover. It is when I saw it.
It's a rubbish cover.
The ball game.
By the way, the colour red, which is resplendent in that, doesn't even feature in the damn game. So stupid.
There you go. Let's do the charts. Countdown from 10. Down to number 10 is Paperboy. Okay. Down to number 9 from number 1. It's finally off number 1 is Magic Land Dizzy.
Okay.
Professional Footballer from D&H Games, who we know as Cult
also
Games.
known as Cult Games, yeah.
Yeah, are in at number 8 with Professional Footballer. Quattro Cartoon, down to number 7.
Okay.
Double Dragon is up to number 6. Multi-Mix 1 Golf is down to number 5. Dragon Ninja holding strong at 4.
Okay.
Straight in at number 3 is American 3D Pool.
Yeah, makes sense.
Straight in at number 2 is Spike in Transylvania. That was a good game.
Spike. Yeah, it was all right.
And straight in at number 1 at budget is Bubble Bobble. That's a good buy.
Literally. That's a good buy.
Going down from 11. 11 is Cave Mania.
Okay.
CJ's Elephant Antics at 12. Down to 12.
Good.
Dizzy Collection up to 13. These are all new in. Quattro Coin Ops at 14.
Okay.
15 is Outrun. Renegade 3 in at 16. Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo at 17. Could have been anything. Creatures is in at number 18.
Okay.
Down to number 19 is Red Heat.
Good.
Yeah, and Forgotten Worlds in at number 20. That was spinny, wasn't it? Oh, so spinny.
So spinny. Yeah, well, it's an interesting chart. At least Bubble Bobble's triumphant there, which is deserved.
Yeah. Hopefully, Rodland will come in there next, because I think Rodland will
see. Well, this is the game we're now in the battle of the budgets, aren't we?
Yeah, 12 quid is a large spend.
Exactly. That's 3. You could buy 3 budget games at the moment for one of them.
Yeah, or get 4 games that were on the cover of, a couple of magazines.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's 4 or 5 games.
You're pushing your luck at full price, I think, with some of these. Yeah.
Next month, we only have 7 games because one has been jettisoned because it's one of those games we probably would never looked at.
It falls foul of the rules.
Yeah, it's something about Medusas. I think it's that one, or it's some kind of something. Anyway, so we've only got 7 games, but we've got some big games. Speedball 2.
Okay.
Terminator 2. Judgment Day. Ocean are back.
Yeah, great.
Swap. Whatever that means. Volfied. I love Volfied. I hope this version's good because I absolutely love Volfied. It's the follow-up to Kicks.
Okay. We'll see if it's any good.
Darkman.
I'm not holding out much hope for that.
Ocean are back. I reckon that's going to be very much like Total Recall.
Yeah, I think you might be right.
But they've had a year. We've not seen them, Ocean, for pretty much a year.
Yeah.
Been a while.
Maybe with good reason.
Yeah. Bouncing Heads.
Okay.
I have no idea. And something called Dragon's Kingdom.
Oh, what, 7 games is that? Wow.
7. Yeah. Only 7 next month.
They're dwindling.
Yeah, the weirdness starts after that because there's no November, because that's when Zap went out of business. They come back in December. But so November, December we'll have I think there's 7 or 8 games apiece for those 2. But anyway,
wow,
we'll get to them. But that's it. That's the games for next month. The numbers are dwindling, so it'll be 3 I think next week and 4 the following week. But it is what it is. We can only review what's in front of us.
It is exactly what it is.
Yeah, I think October 92 is the lowest. I think there's only 4 games in total.
Yeah, makes sense. But
there you go. Anyway, that's it. That's September done. How do you feel about September, Graham? September 1991.
A bit nondescript, but there was a couple of decent ones in there, I suppose.
Yeah, I think Rodland is the biggie in it. It's the nice one.
Yeah.
The one
at least there was something in there that was worthy of playing.
All right. On that note, we're going to leave you to go away for the rest of your day. I hope you have a good one, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to this. We'll be back next week, obviously. We start October 91. So, as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
And I have been Graham Raddings.
And you've been listening to Zapped to the Past. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zapped to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zappedtothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zappedtothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zapped to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zapped to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Raddings and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zapped to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.